Good morning, everyone. This is the Swanee River Water Management District Governing Board meeting and public hearing. We're available on YouTube link at www.youtube.com at SRWMD. It is August 11th, 9 o'clock. And at this time, we'll call this meeting to order. If everyone would rise, we'll say our invocation and pledge.
Lord, it's a great day to be here. We're so grateful for waking us up and giving us the health that we enjoy and everything that you've blessed us with, Father. I thank you for the rain. Lord, you have refreshed so many areas of our district, Father, and we thank you for that. We pray over the meeting today. I ask you to give us wisdom as we tackle the issues that are before us, Father. That you give us wisdom and understanding and discernment of what we need to do and how we need to do it. I thank you so much for your blessings and thank you for where we are. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we need a roll call
Chair Johns,
here.
Mr. Keith, Mr. Schwab,
Here.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Sessions.
Here.
Mr. Thompson,
Here.
Mr. Lloyd,
Here.
Mr. Wheeler.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Robin. It looks like we've got, we're waiting on a confirmation. And Tommy, would you kind of tell us why our next item is an election for a vice secretary and treasurer? Just kind of let the board know what we're doing.
Certainly. The idea is we presently have, actually, water management districts have three officers. They have a chair, they have a secretary, they have a treasurer. What this board has chosen to do in the past is to have a chair and have a vice chair. The vice chair, of course, serves in the absence of the chair. This board has in the past, has decided to have one person serve as both secretary and treasurer. What we don't have, though, is we don't have someone to serve if that secretary and treasurer is not here. And so the idea is that it would probably be good to have that redundancy in the system and have someone designated as a vice chair that would serve, designated as a vice secretary and treasurer that would serve in the absence of the secretary and the treasurer. And so that was the thought that staff had and was going to propose to the board. I think if you decide you want to do that, the way to do that is it would be two motions. The first would be to create the position of vice secretary and treasurer that would serve in the absence of the secretary and the treasurer. And then the second motion would be to appoint one of you to serve as vice secretary and treasurer.
Any questions regarding this item?
Madam Chair, I make the motion that we create the position of vice secretary treasurer.
No, second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
And that person would serve as secretary treasurer in the absence of the secretary.
Yes, that's what my motion is.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I nominate that guy right there in the goatee.
Mr. Thompson.
I second.
You remind me of myself.
Yes, I know. I'm having a moment.
Yeah.
That's okay. We all do.
Yes, Larry K. Thompson.
Okay.
Yes, that's who
okay.
I'm
There you
nominating.
go.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mr. Larry, you have been nominated. Is there any other nomination? All right. All in favor of Mr. Larry taking that position?
I'll do the second.
You need a
I
second.
second.
Okay.
We got a motion
And a second.
and a second. Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you for serving in that position.
Thank you to the board for in that position.
Oh, dear. All righty. Let's see here.
2026-1. I'm sorry.
Got it, okay, number 18. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
We
Yep.
have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. We can open at this time public comment, and if I call your name and you want to hold off until a certain number, just let me know, or a certain item. Susan Carr, you want to just wait until Lands Committee? Okay, all righty. Walter Messer? Yes, sir. Would you like to come up and speak at this time? Good morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate the opportunity to addressing you this morning. My name's Floyd Messer. I own Ironwood Reserve just down the road from you, 6 miles. I'm gonna prove to you today that this property is the most underwater management property anywhere in your district, and one of the most important water properties in your district. Y'all done a wonderful job on the rivers. You had all kind of rules and septic tanks and stuff that's kept our rivers all pristine. The only problem is my property feeds your rivers and springs, and that are not tested or regulated in any way. The property is historical in many ways. The house is deeded by the U.S. government as a stagecoach inn. The Timuquana Indians lived there for 15,000 years, which I have many artifacts from that time period. But history is not what we're here to talk about. I've lived in Suwannee County since 67. At one point, I owned 5,600 acres of Suwannee County. Through time, I sold it off. I just recently sold the east side of 49, across from this property, to Todd Fryer. Todd says he's not going to subdivide it, and I trust him in his word, but it's not in the deed. The importance of water management is foremost there at this property. I'm going to pass around a drawing for y'all to just kind of look at it while I'm talking. I tried to have it made by y'all, but y'all's computer didn't make what we needed. So I had it made elsewhere. There's 20 springs on the property. There's 7 crevasses or takeaway holes. West of my property, there's over 150 acres of crevasses or takeaway holes. On an average year, 4 billion gallons of water flow across my property. In a wet year, it's into the hundreds and hundreds of billions of gallons. Untested, unregulated, completely. None whatsoever. Build a septic tank, subdivide it tomorrow. You know, by the way, y'all have beautiful pine trees. I got them twice that big. One of the last true stands of natural hardwoods left in North Florida. Some 400 and 500 years old. And I want to protect that for all times. The way this all comes about is that water collects from east of our property, a little from the north of our property, and quite a bit from the south of this property. And it flows into our creeks. You have what they call double run. It's really not named anything. Halfway through the property, which drains the other east side of 49 for miles. Well, I've been there since 97, soon to be 30 years. 4 times. And those 30 years, the water that has fell has caused the back crevasses to fill all the way up on 140, cross underneath your 8-foot wide bridge you have there for it to flow to the other side, and actually could see water forever. It was a dirt road to 140. Y'all paved it, somebody paved it. They put in 10 covers, I don't know, 18-inch covers maybe. Because every time it flooded, it would cut that dirt road in half. make a 20-foot deep ditch. Now, it just flows over the road because those culverts is not enough when it gets wet. All this water goes in these crevasses into aquifer, comes up in our springs, and some of them probably are in the Gulf of Mexico, or the Gulf, I guess I should say now. But they come up in our springs. So you're talking about anywhere from 4 billion to maybe 1 trillion gallons of water in any given year that's flowing underground 6 miles south of here. I own 1,874 acres left after I sold Todd's 650. I'm putting up $1 million of my money towards a conservation easement. I started last year and everybody said it was too big, too much money. That's why I sold part of it, was reducing the size. I've heard that y'all are considering not giving any partials this year. And I hope today I can change your mind. Because it's very important as you go to other agencies to try to get an easement that more people are on board. I know you have limited funds. I don't expect no $1 million or nothing like that out of y'all. But I want you to look at it and think about water management, because that's what y'all are about, right? This is what we're talking about. So I'm gonna start this map over here. You notice there's a total of 8 miles of spring waters. 4 was definitely dry. Springs.
Sir, you got to be back here at the, so you can be on our record.
Blue Lake is the largest lake in Suwannee County. I have Blue Lake, Bandy Lake, half a sand pond, and all of Buttonwood Pond. I've spent over $300,000 on these lakes. If you go and look at your blues in 1994, 95, 96, you will see Blue Lake was covered 80% in hyacinths and floating islands. That one job was over $200,000 to clean up that lake. And we cleaned up ever since. I sprayed it yesterday morning. Vegetation, because it's been low, so it's really come back and that kind of thing. You got to take care of it or take over your lake. So I'm very passionate about my land, and I'm very passionate about water management. Forget the forest, forget the history. Let's just concentrate on what you do, water management. So think about it, 6 miles south of here, billions and billions of gallons of water. And when we first come up last year to your department, and they come out and visited, they somewhat knew about it. That's what they said to me. Somewhat knew about it. But after seeing it, they said, this is certainly something that needs to be addressed. But last year, you give all your money to the Suwannee River. We're joining more and more easements to make it bigger. I understand. This year, I was told probably not going to do partials, even though my good friend Troy Register got a partial a few years back and has 0 water on it. So I'm turning to you all today and asking for some help with my easement. However much it could be, just something to put on paper to help me take this further down the road. As you can see, as you review the map, the amount of water that's on this property, that's generated on this property, that actually being made every day on this property. The big water comes on big rains from not just this property. And you want to know why Peacock Lake's dry? Ever thought about that, huh? Well, back probably for y'all's day, this outfit called Continental Can went in there and planted trees and stopped up all the creeks, stopped everything up. Now when it rains, they can't even get timber out of it because it back floods all throughout because the water can't reach its destination, which is Peacock Lake. I don't ever see that happen to Blue Lake or Bandy Lake or any of my lakes. And the only way to ensure that is we get an easement that keeps anything from happening. Hopefully y'all can see the importance to the point that the crevasses behind me, somebody speaks to them who own that property, who I do not know about easements. and even Todd Fryer and the PC bar across the road, he might be open to an easement. But this water is going into the aquifer. And it's coming up in your drinking water, and it's coming up in your springs. If you're not regulated, well, let's just say for $500,000, I put up $1 million. For $500,000, I can have a master plan made on this property for development.
Mr. Messer, have you
All
gone
right,
before
I'm
the,
through? Okay.
before the Lands Committee? Is this property gone before the Lands Committee, or, we have certain?
Oh, yeah, I've been for the land committee was all for it. Last year, they were all for it, and we called them back, coming back. They said, we don't need to come back. We've already been there. You just need to address the board. That's
Okay.
where I'm at today.
Do y'all have any questions for Mr.
Yeah, any
Messer?
questions? A lot of water.
I've seen it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for
Thank y'all
coming
for
and
listening
talking
to
to
me.
us
I
today.
appreciate any help I can get.
All right, sir.
Large or small, will be fine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Alicia Lamb? Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. I want to give you a brief update on the continuing runoff from the True Leaf property. Since shortly after the construction work on the stormwater pond was completed in late May, we have observed and documented runoff from the True Leaf property every single day through yesterday evening. I haven't checked it this morning. We continue to experience flooding and erosion on the property, on our property. I continue coming to these meetings because the district has the responsibility for the stormwater system that conveys water toward our property. I understand that the pending ERP modification is intended to separate True Leaf's cultivation return water from its stormwater system. I think that separation is important. But I have a concern about the permit record being created. The revised ERP plans and engineering documents now contain extensive design information for the irrigation pond, pumps, force mains, sprinkler system, and land application of cultivation return water. District staff have explained that SRWMD regulates the stormwater system, and that disposal of this operational water is outside of the district's jurisdiction. My request today is simple. If this ERP modification is approved, please make jurisdictional limitation explicit in the permit itself. Please state that inclusion of the irrigation pond, pumps, sprinklers, or operational water calculations in the ERP documents does not constitute district approval or authorization of the disposal of cultivation return water or other processed water, and does not determine whether separate authorization from FDEP is required. That clarification would protect the district, the public, and everyone involved from future confusion about what this ERP actually permits. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Moses? Good morning.
I feel so relieved we lightened up on that 3-minute restriction.
Oh, but we're going to hold you just a
Oh, I know. I just couldn't pass that opportunity to comment on that. I did some math, still frustrated over that, the water situation. So I did some math. I broke it down. I tried to send that to y'all this morning, and the Wi-Fi here won't allow me. But anyway, Swanee River Water Management District, according to y'all's records and the records I could find on Mr. Google, received 36 inches of rainfall between July 1st, 2025 and June 30th, 2026, 12-month period. If I'm not wrong, the Swanee River Water Management District encompasses 7,640 square miles. 1 inch of rain and 1 square mile equals 17.4 million gallons of water. You multiply that 7640 times 17.4 million gallons, you wind up with 133 billion gallons of water for that 1 inch of rainfall. You take that 133 billion gallons of water and times it times the 36 inches of rain that fell within the valley during that period I mentioned. That'd give you 4.8 trillion gallons of rain during that period. We draw somewhere around 260 million gallons a day from the valley, and I know there's others drawing water too, but, you know, for the sense of this math, you take that 260 million gallons that's drawn from our area times a year, 365 days, that winds up with 95 billion gallons drawn per that period of time. All right, so the amount of rainfall during that period of time was 4.8 trillion. And so you subtract the drawn amount during that period, 95 billion, that gives a surplus of 4.7 trillion gallons during that year. 4.7 trillion gallons of surplus rainfall fell on the Suwannee River Water Management District between July 1st and 2025 and June 30th, 2026. The solution is to capture and direct as much of that God-given rainfall into our Florida aquifer. If we only captured 10% of that rainfall, we'd have 470 billion gallons of surplus water, okay? Plan B could and should be to dam up the less significant spring heads between the spring head and the riverbanks. I don't know if I've said that, but like I said before, I think we got to hear things or see things about 7 times before it sinks in when we're not open to it. My question to y'all is, what has been done insofar as considering and acknowledging this data and implementing the remedy? And real quick, I'm out of time, but it was brought to me a long time ago by a local. I haven't been to the site. He gave me a map. I failed to bring it this morning. I just thought of it. I promised him I'd bring that out here. There's a Black Cow property, the Black Cow fertilizer out in O'Brien area. The gentleman claims, I've only looked at aerial view, but he claims that the elevation, there's some of y'all that's been here forever, over there the river goes underground, and supposedly that storage where they store all that fertilizer, the elevation is much higher, and it's downhill from there, that Black Cow storage. And his concern is, and mine too, that residue is washing down. It's half a mile away, supposedly, at that bend in the river, and that fertilizer residue is washing down where the river goes underground. And also, just to get in y'all's head, I'll also email each of y'all about my research on the hyperscale AI centers. Y'all got the authority to block that as well in our county, I understand. I hope y'all are doing all your research you can to, and I'll send you stuff that I found to protect our water supply. Of course, the ones that want to sell it, they're making it sound all warm and fuzzy. We can get a bunch of tax dollars, but if we can't drink our water because of it, and they're talking about the micro nuclear plants to supply their power so they don't tap into our power supply. Research and find out what happens to all that nuclear waste that's produced at an increased amount on those small.
Thank you, sir. All righty, let's see. I think all
I
my.
have one question.
So go ahead.
Mr. Moses, did you come up with all those numbers yourself, or did the AI assistant help you with that?
AI did not assist me, sir. I
I
researched.
was just wondering, because if I had to calculate all those numbers, I'd be using my AI assistant. I was just saying.
I got a fancy calculator.
Was that a fancy, you did all that math yourself?
I absolutely did.
No problem.
I have a degree in math as well, so,
Okay.
and science. I I look dumb, act dumb, but I'm
No,
pretty
that's a lot of
smart.
ciphering. I just was curious. No problem.
Oh, dear. Okay, I think the rest of the cards are specific to an item, so we'll go on, if there's anybody else that would like to speak during public comment. If not, we're going to move on with our agenda, and we're going to close public comment at this time. If everybody had a chance to study up on our consent agenda, is there a motion?
I make the motion that we pass the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Okay. All right, so it looks like we're going to do our hydrologic report.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'd like to present the hydrologic conditions report for July 2026. My thanks this month goes out to Ron Fox. He sent me a bunch of really good photos of Gilchrist Blue Spring. He was out servicing some of the continuous monitoring gauges that we have out there, and he snapped some photos and sent them over to me. This being one of them, this is a wonderful, just downstream view of the spring itself. What you do notice in this photo is some of the dry areas. So this spring has kind of had some issues with, with dryness that we've had with the ongoing drought that we've had since last year. And you can kind of tell some of the areas that over on the left of this photo that were typically inundated are not inundated now, but still it's a beautiful spring. I think it's a great photo. I'd like to thank Ron for this photo, and I think it's a great way for us to start our hydro report for July 2026. All right, rainfall for July 2026, unfortunately, we missed the mark yet again. We only got 5.4 inches as a district-wide average. That represents about 30% less than that long-term average of 7.7 inches. Moving that window of time forward, we lost 6.5 inches in July 2025, and we only picked up 5.4 inches, so we went from a rainfall deficit at the end of June of 18.7 inches. We're back up to 19.8 now at the end of July. Taking a look at the map, that 5 to 7 inch range does encompass a district-wide average for the month. We did have a lot of rain in kind of this circled area right here, mostly in the coast and into the center of the district. The lower than average amounts, the 3 to 5 inch range in dark blue and less than 3 inches in light blue, see a lot of that up in the northern part and over into the eastern part of our district. On the flip side of that, 7 to 9 inches of rainfall in orange, 9 to 11 in red, and we did have some areas that benefited quite a bit, got more than 11 inches of rain. Portions of South Taylor, Dixie County, and southern Levy County, all in that pink color, saw more than 9 inches of rain for the entire month of July. I wanted to talk a little bit about our surplus deficit. This is actually figure 3 from the report. What you'll notice on here, there is no surplus at all. It's all deficits. All the categories are deficits beginning with deficit less than 8 inches, and then a deficit 8 to 13. We don't see a lot of those colors on this map. What we really do see are the deficits 13 to 18 inches in orange, the dark brown color 18 to 23, and what really stands out, there are deficits greater than 23 inches in some of the river basins that we have throughout our district. Looking at the map, the Santa Fe Basin right here, almost half of the Santa Fe Basin is showing deficits greater than 23 inches in that red color. Other areas of that large deficit are scattered throughout the other 4 river basins as well, the Osceola, Suwannee, Coastal, and Wakasasa basins. Taking a look at the statistics that we've got, June is, the end of June is on the right, end of July is on the left. Really, most of these kind of added to their deficit at the end of July, except for the coastal basin. That coastal basin actually did improve slightly, about 0.7 of an inch improvement at the end of July. Looking at the numbers themselves, ranking them, the 22.5 inch rainfall deficit in the Santa Fe actually is the highest that we see out there, with the second highest being 22.1 inches in the Osceola Basin of a rainfall deficit. With that being said, looking at this is a little bit more positive note here. This is our departure from normal precipitation from the last 30 days. So this actually goes through Sunday, from the 11th of July through the 9th of August. In our district, we see anywhere from breaking even to 1.5 inches of rainfall surplus to 1.5 inches to 3 inches of rainfall surplus, and that's in those green areas. Looking at some of the other counties along our coast, 3 to 4.5 inches of rainfall surplus. We see those in Dixie, Lafayette, and over into Taylor. And Taylor County, interestingly enough, got quite a bit of rain, ranging anywhere from 4.5 inches of rainfall surplus to 7.5 inches of rainfall surplus plus. This one area right here saw more than 7.5 inches of rainfall surplus in Taylor County in the past 30 days. So we already have had a really large rainfall event that started July 31st, which was on a Friday, and went through that Monday on August 3rd. During that time, we got a district-wide average of 3.4 inches, which came as a relief to a lot of areas, a lot of drought-stricken areas. Looking at the map, most of the rain did occur over in the coastal areas again, into the center part of the district. We had 4 to 6 inches in green. Orange was 6 to 8 inches, 8 to 10 in red. And then some areas of Levy County actually did see more than 10 inches of rainfall in that 4-day period. With that said, stream flow conditions for July 2026, kind of a little bit of degradation throughout the district and South Georgia. The only improvements we saw were in the Econfina and the Steinhatchee. Both went from the below normal at the beginning of the month to the normal range at the end. Looking up into South Georgia and North Florida, we had the Alapaha. Was staged pretty high and had some high flows at the beginning of the month due to some increase in rainfall in June and into the beginning of July. They were staged up at the greater than 90th percentile flow, but by the end of the month, they were down in the normal range. As we move down into our district here, the Ellaville gauge, the Brantford gauge, and Rock Bluff all ended the month much below normal, that less than 10th percentile. And looking over into the Santa Fe, really, unfortunately, with them not getting a whole lot of rainfall over there, not a whole lot of flow either from these rivers, beginning and ending the month and in the much below the less than 10th percentile are Fort White, New River, and Graham. Worthington Springs actually did begin the month much below normal, but ended the month without flow, with zero flow, with that new category that I had to add a few months back. And that's comparable to what's happening up on the North Prong at St. Mary's, just outside of our district as well. All right, these are our Upper Florida and aquifer levels. This is the end of June. Wanted to show this to compare with what we had in July. What we were seeing in June were some improvements, especially up in the northern part of the district in Hamilton and Madison counties. Taylor had a couple wells that were in the normal range as well, as did Suwannee and Jefferson. But we were starting to see some increase in that red, that below 10th percentile on top of the 10th to 25th percentile in orange. Some statistics for you, we had 56 wells in that orange color that were below the 10th percentile, and of those 56, 24 were actually below the 5th percentile in this map. Fast forward 1 month, a little bit of improvement and then a little bit of degradation. We had some improvements, of course, over in Taylor County where they were getting quite a bit of rain. Hamilton County still had some normal range wells as well, and then one over in Suwannee. But we did see some increase in below 10th percentile over in the eastern and southern parts of our district and out west as well. The statistics on this month, we had 61 wells that were below the 10th percentile, and of those, 22 were below the 5th percentile to end the month of July. This is where we were a year ago, so that's a stark difference. This was July of 2025, just to give you a reference of how different the map looks. At that time, we were seeing mostly normal range wells in our district, but we did have some on the high end down in Taylor and Levy counties, just due to some increase in rainfall there. But it's just interesting to see the stark difference between now and then. All right, this is our district-wide upper Florida and aquifer conditions. This is our percentiles. I get these once a week, and I put them in a database and make a graphic on it. What really stands out is that last rainfall event that we had here, up to 23.2% as an aquifer level. But that's a little bit skewed because a lot of that rain fell in the unconfined areas down in the southern part of our district, meaning that they went up really quickly while wells up north and east are still struggling to get that back into the ground. But that's very comparable to what we had back in 2017. We had 27.2%. That was right before Hurricane Irma, but not quite as low as we were back in 2012 at 1%, right before Tropical Storm Debbie number 1. And 2002 in June, we had 2%. So I wanted to take some time and just go through what are percentiles. Sometimes it's good to have a refresher on that. Imagine this is a cross-section of the upper Floridan aquifer. The bottom of the aquifer down here, top of the Floridan is here. We have a well here, and of course we got ground level up here. These brackets represent the range of data that we have collected out there. So we've got these long-term wells that began probably in the 60s, 70s, all the way to present. A lot of these we have a lot of continuous data on. We rank that data, and so up at the 100th percentile represents the maximum elevation that we've ever had out that specific well. The 0 percentile means the lowest we've ever collected out at that well. So if we go out and take a measurement here, just on day one, we'll notice that because of this, when we take that data back in and we rank that data, it's going to be in the 75th percentile just due to where that elevation is of the aquifer currently. If we wait a few months, it gets a little bit drier, we go out, we take another reading. This becomes the 50th percentile, or basically your median, so halfway between the 100th percentile and the 0th percentile. And finally, if we go out and take a third reading, this one would be our 25th percentile because it's a little bit lower than what we had collected previously. Now, what really the take-home message is the 0 percentile, even if you get close to that, the 1%, 2%, something like that, that does not necessarily mean that the aquifer is going dry. That just means that's where that data ranks in our data set. We've got a limited record here, but we were able to rank it, and that's what it comes up as. So just a kind of a thing to take home. And also the 100th percentile too doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have groundwater flooding in certain areas. A lot of that depends on geology and things like that. So just something to keep in mind when I say percentiles, just think that that's the data that we have ranked at the district. All right, continuing with the groundwater, let's look at DOT Lake City. This is an 85-year well. This has a really long-term record here. The blue is the continuous data. The black is the manually collected data. The lowest we have on record for this is from 2012, May 25th, 2012. We were at 40 feet roughly. As of yesterday, this well was at 43.3, so that's about 3 feet higher than it was back in 2012. And if we do calculate the percentile for that, that's going to be about the 9th percentile. I did the new well this month. This is City of High Springs. I wanted to show just a little something different this month. This one actually has a pretty long record too, beginning in 1964, but really I think a lot of the data started in the early 70s. The lowest we have on record here was back in 2012, May 26th, and that's 30 feet roughly is what we had there. We're about 31.3 feet right now, and that ranks about the 7th percentile if we do the calculation on that data. And finally, Cross City. This is a really neat well to take a look at because we got a lot of rain down in that area, and you look how it just spikes right up. That has a lot to do with the geology in the area being more unconfined, so that rain goes right into the ground as soon as it hits it. We're right there at the aquifer. The lowest we had on record here was 28.4. As of yesterday, we were at 31.7, so about 4 feet higher there, and that ranks about the 12th percentile of data if you take all this data and rank it. All right, this is our U.S. Drought Monitor. This was released last Thursday, August 6th. A little bit of improvement, actually. We had a one category improvement over in the western part and southern part of our district, going from severe drought over in those areas to moderate drought. But as we start to move east, we're seeing some severe drought still over in the central part and eastern part of our district, and extreme droughts kind of hanging out over that Santa Fe basin. They're kind of keeping that out there as extreme drought just due to the dryness that they have out there. I did want to mention that we are still under an El Nino advisory. That El Nino is expected to continue and strengthen. We're going to have what's probably known as a super El Nino sometime in the winter. I'd say probably around December or so. We're going to see a really strong signal out there in the equatorial Pacific. That's expected to continue through the new year. We got about a 97% chance of that going into early spring. So that's going to be with us for a little bit of time. With that said, though, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's seasonal outlook for August through October has us with equal chances of either above near normal or below normal rainfall for the next 3 months from August through October. And also, we've got above normal temperature probabilities as well. That puts us at about 50 to 60% chance of leaning above normal temperatures for August through October. All right, I wanted to do a little quick update of the Atlantic hurricane season. August 6th, the National Hurricane Center actually did come out with some adjusted predictions. Now we're seeing about 75% chance of below normal activity in the Atlantic for the hurricane season for 2026. And that's compared with 20% chance of near normal or 5% chance of above normal. I think they reduced these slightly here by 1 or 2 storms. I think it was 7 to 13 storms named, 2 to 6 hurricanes, and then 0 to 2 major hurricanes. So they're saying there is a chance we may not even see a major hurricane this year. We can go ahead and mark off Bertha. Bertha was actually a tropical storm that formed on July 20th. We did get some beneficial rain from that on some of the outer bands in our coastal counties, but it hightailed it to the west, made landfall and then dissipated pretty quickly. Next on the list is Cristobal. Looking at this map here, this was from yesterday, but I looked at it this morning. This is still about 10% chance of formation here, but it's headed on out to the west, or excuse me, the east. And then this one down here has almost dissipated. I think it's run into some wind shear. But this guy right here, it's a little bit extended now. It's in the red. It's at 70% chance of cyclone formation in the next 7 days. That's probably what we need to watch, and that may become Cristobal when it is named. And Atlantic hurricane frequencies, we are currently sitting right here. We're still on kind of our climb up to that climatological peak on September 10th. At which point we kind of have a little bit of a decline. So it only takes one storm. We all just need to realize we need to be prepared for anything that could come our way. We've got lots and lots more hurricane season left to go. All right, our July 2026 summary, we had a rainfall amount of 5.4 inches, representing 30% less than that long-term average of 7.7 inches. We did increase our deficit slightly, as I mentioned, moving that window of time forward from 18.7 inches to 19.8 at the end of July. District-wide overflow and aquifer levels kind of stayed about the same, but with rounding, they went to the 12th percentile versus the 11th percentile in June. And we actually did see a median level decrease across our monitored wells about 0.2 of a foot. And the good news, as of August 8th, this past Saturday, we saw up to the 23rd percentile due to that big increase in rain that we got at the end of July and the beginning of August. El Nino conditions, as I mentioned, are currently present. They are expected to strengthen through the end of the year, probably December. We may see the highest signal there. With the 97% chance, it will persist through early spring 2027. District is covered by moderate drought, mainly over in the west and south. We've got severe drought in the center part of the district and to the east, and extreme drought is still designated over the Santa Fe Basin. And finally, as I mentioned, Tropical Storm Bertha was the second named storm of 2026, and that happened on July 20th. Didn't last too terribly long. We got a little bit of beneficial rain from it, but it hightailed it to the west. And Madam Chair, I do have one more slide. Just wanted to update the board on the water shortage order. We're currently poised to maintain our modified Phase 2 water shortage order going forward, but we're going to continue to evaluate water use data and determine if there is a Phase 3 water shortage order necessary. If there is, at that time, we'll bring that to the board in the coming months. All right, with that, Madam Chair, if the board has any questions, I will take those now.
Questions?
Madam Chair. Robbie, you said you had one slide where you showed over the last 30 days that we have had a substantial increase. Would it be fair to say that we've got that increase? Really, you had another slide that said from July 31st to the date, we had had more than normal rainfall. So using data that went back into July for the one slide, and then this is the one where I said we got, more than what I would think that already at 3.58 district-wide for 3 days into August would probably be much more than normal, right?
Madam Chair? So I'm glad you asked that question. I looked yesterday, and as of all the way through the 9th, from the 1st to the 9th of August, we've gotten 4.3 inches as a district-wide average. Our average, and I don't want to get this wrong, I do have a bonus slide. I think it's 7.7 at the end of August, but let me double check. I had that. I usually put that one in the deck here, but I think I put it as a bonus this month. Yes, okay. So yes, I was correct. 7.7 is our average for August. So we're almost there. I mean, we're getting there. We have plenty more August left, which is good. But we're as of the 9th, we're at 4.3 as a district-wide average.
Okay.
It has been, that amount we got August 1st through the 3rd helped tremendously, for sure.
I was just trying to, I was thinking positively that we may be on a trend to start
Yeah.
getting that deficit down a little bit opposed to adding to it.
Yeah, I hope, that's my hope as well, for
Which
sure.
is what we need to have to avoid that phase 3 water shortage too.
Agreed.
Thank you, Robbie.
Robbie, I know historically, on those well monitoring data, you've shown that this was Tropical Storm Debbie, this was the other tropical system that we had back in 12 and 17 or whatever it was there. Have you seen historically though, because of the data coming out of the Hurricane Center of wind shear, most likely we're not going to get that much tropical activity this year. Have you seen these basically drought busters because of a El Nino or super El Nino other than a tropical system? Have you seen that happen like in the fall and the winter?
Correct, yes. So on average, an El Nino for our area is wetter and it can typically be cooler, just depending, because we'll get a lot of thunderstorm activity. So what happens is I think it pulls the jet stream a little bit closer to us, so we'll get a lot of that thunderstorm activity coming on that jet stream in our area. It could pull some stuff out of the Gulf as well and kind of throw it across us as well. So yes, there is a potential that we could get more rain for it despite not having, a really active hurricane season. Yeah, on average, that typically, El Nino is wetter than La Nina.
Good news.
Yep, that is good news.
Very much, very much.
Now, the other thing is can you go back to like the peak hurricane season, the one that the slide looks like it's on fire? Okay, and you had the area right there where we are. Would you say that we're a quarter of the way through season or almost halfway through the season? Would you say that?
Madam Chair? We're basically halfway through the season, I think around September 10th. That's what they kind of call the peak. I think we're probably maybe a quarter of the way at this point.
Now, when you watch a football game, just asking, and you see at halftime that the one team's getting their butt handed to them, could you assume at that part that you can predict the end of the game?
Madam Chair?
Good one.
Honestly, that depends on what team I'm watching. If
Yeah,
it's,
I
if
mean,
it's a
yeah,
team I
it
cheer
depends on what
for, then
team.
yeah, probably
Do you
not.
think it's really right for the Hurricane Center to be able to change their forecast after the second quarter?
So,
I'm just asking.
no,
I mean, it's not kind of odd that they can change up in the middle of the game. I mean, they're not even going to cow shear or nothing like that, right?
I understand that. So it's more than likely, they make these predictions in, May, and we don't have all the data in for the models and everything. So they tend to have a little bit of an update because we didn't know, I guess, earlier in this year how strong this El Nino was going to be this year. And that's going to be a limiting factor for all of the storms that we're going to have. So I think getting more of their data, they're able to make a better assessment, like you said, within a quarter or two of the hurricane season already being over.
And I can tell what the football team's doing at halftime too. Yeah, I mean,
I tell
no
you,
problem. No, I'm just throwing that one out there. I'm just sort of trying to stay the
if
office.
it's a team I cheer for, then they're probably going to lose the second half anyways.
I'm sure it's scientific. It's all good. It's all good.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Slides
Thank you,
were
Robbie.
great.
Appreciate you. Thank
you. All right, Hugh, do we have any cooperating agencies or organizations to?
Yes, ma'am.
advise?
We actually do have, we've got Andrew and Sarah here from Department of Environmental Protection here, and we've got Chris Wynn as well from Fish and Wildlife. He is in attendance today. And I believe later on, relative to the audit committee, Mr. Sam McCall will be in the audience as well. I don't see him at this time. Okay, and Jeffrey Adams would be the next.
Thank
That's all
you.
I've got, Madam Chair.
Welcome, everyone. Glad you're here. Okay, the next item is very, very special, and it is a service recognition for none other than our ED. And would you like to do a presentation for Hugh.
Yes, please. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Governing Board. My name is Kelly Woolley. I represent the Human Resources Office. It is my pleasure to recognize Hugh Thomas for 10 years of excellent service. At Hugh's request, I'm going to try to keep this short. We all know how important Hugh is to our staff and to the district as a whole. Since joining the district in August of 2016 and becoming our executive director in July of 2017, Hugh has demonstrated professionalism, integrity, and unwavering commitment to this district's mission. Through his leadership, he has not only helped guide the organization's growth, but has also helped all of us grow along the way. Hugh leads with fairness, earns the admiration and support of those around him, and sets a positive example that is reflected throughout the district. His passion for conservation, stewardship of our natural resources, and genuine care for the people he serves are evident in everything. It is clear that this role is more than a career for Hugh. It is a calling, and one that he fulfills with excellence and dedication every day. We are grateful for his contributions, proud of all that he has accomplished over the past 10 years, and pleased to congratulate him on this milestone achievement.
And Hugh, we look forward to the next 10 years as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. But can I make a request to get a photo with the board?
Yes, that's a great idea.
And if you will accommodate me, I'd like to get my D5 leadership team up here as well. They're gonna come up with that.
All right.
Hugh, I just want to say how pleasant and great it has been to work with you and all of your staff. You've really done a good job, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's been my pleasure to work with my board and with my staff, as I mentioned, and that's why I really wanted to get the D5 team in there, because it has been a joint effort. And I know the board realizes that, and so I do thank you all for your support over the years with this. Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. Let's see here. Tom, do you have anything for us today?
Just one matter, and I, of course, emailed out everybody this with the Mr. Hill's case. We had a hearing. The judge decided not to hold Mr. Hill in contempt, but the judge did dismiss the motions that he had filed, and the judge entered an order barring the clerk of the court from accepting any new pleadings from Mr. Hill that aren't signed by an attorney. And so the judge felt like he wanted to try that, before moving on to any kind of contempt. And so that's where we stand. So presently, there are no motions or anything pending for Mr. Hill in the state court.
Okay. That's good news.
Yeah. So other than that, nothing unless you have questions of me.
Questions for Tom? None? Okay.
I have one question, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, that's fine.
I'm just asking this right here. So the judge mandated that the clerk couldn't accept anything else from Mr. Hill unless an attorney signed off on it. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So basically, anybody in this state can bring any kind of suit like like what's been going on without an attorney, without it costing them anything. Is that right?
Well, so.
Unless it's an order like what the judge did for the clerk.
So in court, everyone has to be represented by an attorney in order to appear in court, meaning the county court or the circuit court, except that natural persons are privileged to represent themselves. So for instance, a corporation could not represent itself through its non-attorney partners or members or any of that. Now, what the court did was the court limited Mr. Hill's ability to represent himself, and by saying that he couldn't file in those cases dealing with the ownership of this real property, so that Mr. Hill couldn't file anything without being represented by an attorney. The idea being that an attorney, were an attorney to file the type of motions that Mr. Hill's been filing, that attorney would face discipline and sanction by the bar, as well as possibly be responsible for attorney's fees and all of that. And so that's enough of a deterrent. But yes, so if your question is, can just a regular citizen go and file a lawsuit, there is no requirement that a natural person have an attorney to represent themselves in court. It's not a great idea,
Right.
because courts are very complicated and very tricky, and there's lots of landmines you can step on, but yeah, they're allowed to.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Tim?
Madam Chair, members of the board, those in attendance, good morning. For Business and Community Services, you'll find items number 10 through 24 on this morning's agenda, with item number 18 being removed. Items number 12 through 15 are ag cost share items that were approved by way of consent agenda, along with item number 16 and item number 24. So thank you, board, for the approval on those items. For our presentations today, we'll start with item number 10 and item number 11. These items will be presented by our Office Chief of Administration, Mr. Chris Denmark. Following Chris, we'll have item number 17, which is Resolution 2026-08. This item will be presented by Kristen Thompson, our Finance Program Manager. And then items number 19 and 21 are informational items that will be covered by Mr. Leroy Marshall. And Madam Chair, if you don't mind, we'll go a little out of order because he also has item number 22 to present for your consideration and approval. And then item number 20 is the annual regulatory plan. This item will be presented by none other than Warren Zwonka. And then our last item for your consideration and approval will be item number 23, and this item will be presented by our Office Chief of Environmental Projects, Ms. Mary Diaz. So, Chris?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. We bring before you for your consideration of approval, item number 21, page 1 in your packets, approval of continuing construction services request for qualification. District staff recommends the governing board approve the list of qualified general contractors and authorize the executive director to enter contracts with 8 firms. A little background on this, on April 20th, 2026, the district published a request for qualifications, RFQ 2526-013, for facilities construction projects. The RFQ was advertised and published on the district's website and vendor bid system. The purpose of the RFQ is to qualify or pre-qualify and contract with firms capable of providing general construction services for small projects to complete facilities construction projects in an economical and efficient manner. Contracts for projects will be awarded to the contractors using the task work assignment, TWA process. Contracts will be for an initial term of 3 years with the option of renewing for up to 2 additional 1-year periods. The district will use the competitive solicitations with appropriate, when appropriate, to acquire more specific expertise as needed. The qualification packages were due and opened on April 30th. There were 13 submittals. On June 3rd, district staff held a selection committee meeting to select qualified contractors. The members of the selection committee selected 8 contractors which fulfilled the minimum required qualifications in the RFQ and ranked highest based on proposals submitted. Staff is recommending that the district enter into negotiations with the top 8 firms, which are listed below in the table. Gateway Contracting, Charles Perry Partners, Inc., Cook Brothers, J.E. Decker, Decker Construction, Hydra Engineering and Construction, Drummond Construction Group, McLaughlin and Company, and McCall Construction, LLC. Staff is recommending the governing board approve the list of 8 firms the selection committee recommended and authorize the executive director to enter into contract with these firms.
Any questions on this item? Is there a motion?
make the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, so as far as a facilities update, sorry, thank you, Tim, for reminding me of that. We've got we are in working to continue with the updates to the executive wing. So we've entered into design engineering is underway for the settling of the executive wing building. And other than that, we're just basically keeping them flying here.
Would those services, would that be one of these construction ones that we just approved for one of the 8 that would do the settling contract, or we're going to do a separate bid out for that work?
Madam Chair, Tim, if I can.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as far as the agricultural updates, we're again just keeping them flying on that. We appreciate your consideration and approval of the cost share contracts today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. You have before you item number 17 on BCS page 25 regarding the approval of resolution number 2026-08, the release of fiscal year 2026 to 2027 state appropriations. The Florida legislature has included funding for the Suwannee River Water Management District in the laws of Florida, Chapter 232 General Appropriations Act as follows. Approximately $2.28 million for operations, $453,000 for environmental resource permitting, $352,000 for payment in lieu of taxes, $1.77 million for land management, $1,635,000 for minimum flows and minimum water levels. The legislature directed these funds to be administered by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and made available for use by the district. The district is appreciative of the continued support of the legislature, and staff recommends that the governing board approve resolution number 2026-08, requesting the release of $6,505,119 in legislative appropriations from the Secretary of the Florida Department of Environmental Protection.
Any questions on this item? Is there a motion? Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Is this the sum total of all appropriations for this year?
It is consistent with the recurring appropriations that we receive each year. It is not encumbered the state grants that are awarded,
Okay.
just appropriations for operations.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion to accept the
Second it.
funds.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I will start out with two updates for you this morning. The first is True Leave. We are still working through our attorney and True Leave's attorney to come to an agreement on the compliance agreement. As soon as we get that, the attorneys can come to a resolution on that. We'll be trying to get that signed and move forward with the compliance agreement. On the other front with the application, True Leave has responded to the RAI. They responded last week, so we will start looking at that this week in order to make sure that that ERP meets Florida statute and Florida Administrative Code. I will inform the board that we have received objections to that application. That just means that when the application is ready to have some action by the district, it will need to come before the board for approval or denial. So you guys will be seeing that application when it is ready. Any questions on that?
Questions from the board?
Yes, Madam Chair. The request, you said that would be coming before the board for approval or denial, but that is not, I mean, if the permit meets the requirements by code and by statute, it doesn't need to come before the board, is that correct?
Whenever we receive an objection, our 62330, which is the rule that governs how we apply, review the application, it requires that it come before the governing board before or when an objection is received, and we've received that rejection.
Okay.
Objection, I'm sorry.
Thanks for clarifying that.
The other update is on our CTP program. As we've discussed with the board for the flood risk review for the upper and lower Suwannee, we are changing the process a bit and having the counties host and prepare for the public-facing flood risk reviews. We will be having meetings with the counties Wednesday and Friday, so tomorrow and Friday, giving them a presentation and training on how to host those flood risk reviews, what is expected, what they need to do, how they need to perform those public-facing FRRs. So that training will be Wednesday and Friday of this week. After that training, the district will then host a flood risk review with the counties. And then after we have hosted the flood risk review with the counties will then host the public-facing flood risk reviews. So over the next couple of weeks, through maybe October, you will be hearing about flood risk review meetings happening in the counties, but those will be the public-facing meetings will be held and hosted by the counties.
Leroy, do you think that the county administrations are going to be capable of fielding those questions and so forth that may be coming out of those face-to-face hearings or communication meetings?
Madam Chair. So the way we are setting it up is they should be able to, once they go through the presentation and see how we do the flood risk review, they should be able to answer any procedural type questions and general questions. Anything technical, district staff has offered to be at those meetings and the consultants that we have asked them to assist the counties as well. So the consultants and district staff will be present to answer any technical questions that may be asked.
That was my point. Thank you for making that clear. I just had a fear that maybe that the counties wouldn't be able to answer the questions properly, and then that just creates turmoil and confusion. But if our staff or the consultants are there to answer those questions, then perfect. That's great.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So Leroy, you're going to be dealing with pretty much the EOCs in all the counties, emergency operations departments.
Madam Chair, it's usually the emergency managers, and in some cases, as you know, the building and the code enforcement and the emergency management, sometimes it's all the same person, but in most cases, it is the emergency manager.
All right, sounds like they've got some good support, so that's great at the meetings.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, we'll move on to the item that I was going to present for you today is in regards to a contract with FEMA, with the Federal Emergency Management Agency to administer the risk map program. As the board may remember, in FY 2025, we did not come to you in order to ask for authorization to enter into contract with FEMA, as we did not go through an FY 25 application process. We were informed by FEMA that we would have an FY 26 application process, and we were informed a notice of funding opportunity would come out around the 1st of July, which it did. So we have been working with FEMA over the last month, 6 weeks, to get the application prepared so that we can get that in and get that application submitted so that FEMA can review the application and possibly and hopefully approve the funding. The application has to be signed and executed before the end of September. So we have about 6 weeks to get this application, the application completed, approved by FEMA, and then submitted through the FEMA Go process, and then approved by headquarters, signed by us, signed by them, and executed by September. So the item before you today is for the district to work with FEMA, as we have been doing, to apply for the FY 26 funding cycle. The funding cycle this year, we are asking for $412,000. This $412,000, as was mentioned in the previous board meeting, is only to complete existing studies that we have or to fill in gaps that we have had. The two studies that we are looking at doing for the FY 26 is a detailed study within the Santa Fe Basin and the Alachua Basin, which is down near Alachua. The county of Alachua is down near Gainesville. So what we will be doing in the Santa Fe Basin is a detailed study of the Cannon Creek drainage basin, as we have found that we needed to do a detailed study there in that basin. So the $412,000 will be covering those two studies and project management for those studies for the FY 26. In addition to the FY 26 allocation, the district will have 10 active contracts totaling $14,008,017 for the total. So the recommendation is to authorize the executive director to enter into contract with FEMA to implement the FY 26 mapping assessment and planning program for an amount not to exceed $412,000.
I make the motion, Madam Chair.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leroy.
Madam Chair, members of the board, good morning.
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 And Mr. Thomas, congratulations. It's been an honor serving with you for all 10 of those years, sir. So, all right, so I'm bringing you item number 20 on page BCS 33. This is the annual regulatory plan. Section 127.4 Florida statutes requires state agencies to submit an annual regulatory plan to the Governor's Office of Fiscal Accountability and Regulatory Reform, also known as OFAR, the Joint Administrative Procedures Committee, also known as JAPC, and the Florida Speaker of the House and Florida Senate President by September 1st. So they'll have an expectation of the rules that will be amended or developed by the agency in the upcoming year. The district is not required to complete all the proposed rulemaking in the plan, but the proposed rule amendments are required to be listed in the plan before the agency can proceed with the rulemaking. Also in the plan are a list of laws enacted in the last session that affect the duties or authority of the district and whether the agency must adopt rules to implement those laws. The first reporting of annual regulatory metrics, and the 5-year schedule to review all district rules. If you remember last year, I reviewed the 22 rules in Chapter 40B3, which is our water well construction rules. And this year, I will be reviewing the 23 rules in Chapter 40B1, which is our administrative rules, and 40B9, which is our land management rules. This recommendation also includes a request to delegate to the executive director the authority to submit a report summarizing the agency's intended action on each rule in chapters 40B1 and 9 to the Senate and House, which is a new statutory requirement. As always, all rulemaking must be brought before the governing board for authorization prior to development, be approved by OFAR and JAPC, and be completed by July 1st, 2027. And with that, the recommendation is to approve fiscal year 2026-2027 annual regulatory plan and authorize submittal to the Governor's Office of Fiscal Accountability and Regulatory Reform, the Joint Administrative Procedures Committee, the Florida Speaker of the House, and the Florida Senate President. With that, I'll take any questions.
Questions for Warren?
I don't have a question, Madam Chair, but a comment. It's mind-boggling what you have to go through to change a procedure or rule. I look at these rulemaking charts that you provide us and the data behind it, and I'm thinking, you must spend all your time doing that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
My favorite other duty is assigned, as I call it. It's intentionally made to be difficult, which I appreciate.
Well, we appreciate you.
Absolutely. And your perseverance. All right, we have a recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes my item.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Good morning.
I'm here to present item 23 on BCS page 37 regarding our river recommendations. The fiscal year 26-27 tentative budget includes funding for the Regional Initiative Valuing Environmental Resources, or river projects, that address or enhance the district's water supply, water quality, flood protection, and natural systems core missions. The funding awarded in prior years has facilitated the district's mission and achieved improvements to the infrastructure, economy, and public health of communities throughout the district. With the addition of the projects that we are recommending for FY 26 and 27, the district will fund 90 projects that, once completed, will have reduced an estimated of 9,000 pounds of nutrients, conserved 0.87 million gallons a day of water, protected over 50,000 acres from flooding, and restored approximately 7 acres of natural systems since the river program began in 2013. District staff evaluated applications based on location, past performance in river program, effectiveness at protecting water resources, cost effectiveness, regional impact, ability to start in a timely manner, results from a pre-application with regulatory agencies, and matching funds. Of the 8 applications under review for this year's funding, 4 are recommending for river cost share, 2 are recommended for further development, 1 project is not recommended for funding with river, and 1 project was withdrawn by the applicant. Attachment A shows all the projects that we reviewed in our recommendations. The first one is for the Swanee Water and Sewer District for $17,698 and 13 cents. It's for the oxidation reduction potential system that will meet the monitoring requirements to determine if the treatments meet the 3 million gallons per liter of total nitrogen in their because they discharge, because they do have the Swanee Water and Sewer have a permit for 0.25 million gallons a day facility, and they discharge to an adopted TMDL. And so the requirements is that they meet the 3 million gallons per liter of total nitrogen. And so this will aid in reducing the contribution of nutrients in the lower Swanee Basin. For our second ranked application was for the town of Branford, and it's for $60,000, and it's to design, engineer, and permit improvements to their wastewater system to address the DEP consent order for noncompliance in nitrogen, chlorine, and solid waste levels in the effluent. This is an initial step for the community to demonstrate compliance with the permit. Brantford is within the Swanee BMAP, and the design effort funded will assist them in meeting their allocated reduction requirements. The third project is for the town of Mayo. It's also for $60,000, and it's for design, engineering, and permitting of the expansion of the existing Clyde Street retention pond to increase the stormwater storage capacity of the pond and improve the drainage and reduce roadway and residential flooding. The fourth project being recommended is a $90,000 match for Gilchrist County Board of County Commissioners for them to apply for a non-point source grant application for the design, permitting, and construction of green infrastructure to protect Hart Springs. The design includes some geocells and bioretention areas to protect Hart Springs from erosion. We do have representation from these four cooperating entities in the room, so I thank them for being here today. On the projects that need further development, we have the town of Cross City, who wants to construct a connection of the library to the existing main sewer line and the construction of a storm line on a private property to an existing pond. We're working on with them to gather the required information so that we can meet our funding criteria. The city of Perry, we're also working on them to continue to gather required information needed for funding. They want supplemental funding in addition to the SRF funding that they already have to replace existing water and gas meters. The project that was withdrawn was a feasibility study by the North Florida Water Utilities Authority, and a project that far exceeds overall funding that we have for River was one that was applied by the city of Live Oak to construct stormwater drainage conveyance, stormwater pump stations with force mains, and stormwater ponds in the Live Oak area. With that, the recommendation is to authorize the executive director to execute regional initiative valuing environmental resources cost-share contracts for the selected projects with the appropriate entities for the fiscal year 26-27 in an amount not to exceed $227,698.13.
Any questions on this item?
Make a motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. I also, at this time, have three cards here that might or might not want to comment on this item. Would anybody like to come up and do public comment? I've got Kevin Kingston, Wayne Hamlin, and John Lechner.
Kevin Knighton, President of the Town Council for Town of Branford. I just wanted to thank the board for the grant that the Town of Branford's grateful to have been awarded this $60,000 grant through the Swanee River Water Management Grant Program to fund the design, engineering, and permitting of improvements for the town's wastewater system. These improvements are intended to help us address the FDEP consent order that we're dealing with for nitrogen, chlorine, and solid that we have had an issue with. This funding supports the town's efforts to ensure that compliance can be handled. We appreciate the support for this conceptual grant program, and we look forward to moving this project forward.
Thank you, sir. Good luck. All righty.
Morning, Madam Chair, Board. I'm John Locklear, representing both the Suwannee Water and Sewer District and Gilchrist County. They're both very grateful for your vote and appreciative. Big thanks to Mary for working with us to iron out the details and get that. It's very important on behalf of the Suwannee Water and Sewer District. What this money will do is they're a very small utility. And staffing is an issue, and this will really help keep them on weekends and nights to be able to continue to improve the quality of the treatment process and the effluent with their minimum staffing, so they're very appreciative of that. And Mr. Crosby would have been here today for Gilchrist, but he has recently resigned and is working on a lot of issues as he's passing the torch to an interim administrator. So again, that's for Heart Springs. It's one project of many that we're looking at funding through other agencies in improving water quality and runoff into Heart Springs. So thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming today.
Morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
Want to thank you guys for recommending the improvements for the pond there at Clyde Street, and would ask for you, once it's time for construction, to consider that also. I want to thank you. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you for coming. These all look like very good projects. Bye-bye. All right, this time we're going to take a moment and do a break. Let's see, y'all want 10 minutes? Is that long enough? Okay, 10 minutes. Our break's over. We're going to pick back up with our agenda.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. The Division of Outreach and Operations has 10 items for your consideration today. Before I get started, I just want to also echo congratulations to Hugh Thomas for his 10 years of service at the district. I'll be joining him with that later this year, but remember when he was elected by the board to serve as executive director, and just what a journey and what a blessing that has been for me, and not only me, but our staff, and just can't help but echo the many nice things that have already been said about him. They are all true. All right, we'll get started. Item number 26 and 28 on your agenda are for informational purposes. I'll be presenting both items 27 and 34. Lorna was not feeling well this morning, so I'll be presenting that land management item. And then items 29 through 33, we appreciate very much that you approve those on consent. All right, the first item for your consideration today is item number 27 on OPS page 9. This is the approval of a corrective amendment to the El Trigal Farms Conservation Easement in Jefferson County to allow for a Tri-County Electric Cooperative Transmission Line. In October of 2014, Tyler, if you want to bump over to the map, the district acquired a conservation easement over 349 acres of El Trigal Farms in Jefferson County. In May of 2026, Tri-County Electric Cooperative approached the district seeking to upgrade their existing aerial transmission lines that spans the Alsilla River and associated floodplain. The section of line will be upgraded to an underground utility within the same utility right-of-way. The project aims to meet the needs of the surrounding community by reducing power outages and increasing overall system resilience. However, upon review of the conservation easement terms, the terms prohibit the construction of structures, which includes utilities, other than those that are specifically indicated as permitted structures. In this case, the underground line is not identified as a permitted structure. Furthermore, there is no express reservation authorizing future utility easement changes. Staff believe the transmission line upgrade will not adversely affect the intent of the easement and will provide significant long-term public benefit. Governing Board Directive 260004 allows for corrective amendments to correct omissions that do not change the intent of the easement. We do not believe that this changes the intent of the easement, and staff recommend that the board approve conservation easement amendment allowing for upgrades within the existing right-of-way utility. TCEC is paying for all amendment costs except for staff time. With that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions on the easement?
I'll make the motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board. Next item for your consideration today is item 34 on page 18, OPS page 18. This is a request to the board to amend contract 2324-036 with Res Florida Consulting LLC to provide additional funds for invasive treatments at the Stark Bypass Mitigation Area totaling $30,000 for a total contract amount not to exceed $330,000. In December of 2023, the district entered into contract with Res Consulting for mitigation services at Stark Bypass Mitigation Area for $300,000. And as the board may recall, the Stark Bypass Mitigation Area is a joint effort between the district and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the Florida Department of Transportation to offset impacts from Stark Bypass Road. And so just to give us a little bit of history, the district purchased that conservation easement near Lake Alto in Bradford County back in 2015, worked with a consultant at the time to implement that mitigation project. Back then, there were some, the project was not successful at that time due to a variety of issues. The district filed its insurance claim, received its insurance funds, and are now expending those insurance funds along with some leftover DOT mitigation money to remedy the site, get the credits released, and have the mitigation completed and satisfied with the permit with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So for today, the contract that we have that's standing is the RES agreement, and RES assumes all contractual duty to meet the requirements of the adaptive management plan that's been approved by the Army Corps of Engineers to meet the success criteria and the permit for the mitigation area. It's understood that modifications to the plan may be required in order to meet the district's and Army Corps' requirement to create the required amount of mitigation credits. The 2025 mitigation report noted the presence of dog fennel and upland plant within the wetlands. Although dog fennel is not considered a nuisance plant by rule, the plant is considered undesirable within the wetland community type per the Army Corps of Engineers and must be removed. The likely cause of the dog fennel, the presence of the dog fennel, is the ongoing drought in the regions. Work to remove the dog fennel is not part of the original work plan and is estimated to cost an additional $15,000. The report has also documented that the amount of undesirable ground cover wetland species is below the success criteria. This is largely due to crowding from the dog fennel, also caused by the drought. Removal of the dog fennel and expected El Nino conditions in the winter are expected to recover some of the wetland plants. However, additional wetland plants are likely to be needed to get us to the success criteria. Therefore, staff are requesting an additional $15,000 for contingency treatment or wetland plantings due to the drought. So we have a $15,000 request for dog fennel removal and a $15,000 request for contingency treatments or plantings due to the drought. The total amendment request is $30,000. This additional funding will allow the contractor to complete their original work plan and satisfy the permit requirements. Funding for this contract is available in the budget. With that, staff requests that the board approve the amendment to contract 23-24-036 with RES Consulting for additional treatments and plantings at Start Pass Mitigation Area totaling $30,000 for a total contract amount not to exceed $330,000. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
So when you're getting rid of dog fennels, are they doing it mechanically or are they doing it through spraying? You know?
Madam Chair. And I have Scott Greger here, who's actually the contract manager, but my understanding is that they're going to do a whack and treat method.
Because my concern is with the herbicides, you may kill some of the wetland plants, so can't do it all together. We need to get rid of the dog fennels first and then go back and take care of the wetland plants. Is that how it's going to be done?
Much of monoculture of dog fennel. Those areas are going to be probably mechanically treated and then sprayed. And we think that there's going to be very little impact to anything in those areas because there really wasn't anything that survived anyway.
Right.
So,
Because as El Nino's coming, you're going to get some of those plants automatically would possibly sprout back up anyway, the wetland type plants. Just don't want to plant something and then kill them too, so. All right, I figured you had it figured out, but just wanted to ask. Thanks.
Any questions down here? No?
I do.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Madam Chair. You had a question?
I was just, in this project, has it ever flooded? I mean, has it ever really been, I know naturally, I'm sure it was a wetter area, but after putting a little channel through and things like that, has it ever really gone back to a wetland?
Madam Chair.
That would support wetland plants?
Madam Chair, I am neither a hydrologist nor a geologist. I will tell you that I can pull the hydrology histograph for you and, but cannot speak to the thought process to the folks who originally established this site. Although Warren Zwanka, if he's still, he conveniently left the room for this presentation. I would just like to note that Warren conveniently left the room for this. But the site does flood, the site, which we don't want it to flood, right? We just want it to be established as a wetland. We want it to be hydrologically wet enough to support a wetland species. And the site was selected because the folks that selected it believed and thought and did the necessary analysis and feasibility that it could be established as a wetland mitigation site. So I trust that they knew what they were doing at the time, and the hydrology of that area does show that it has wet and dry periods, but just as you know, we're in a relatively, well, I shouldn't say unprecedented, we're in a pretty significant drought right now. So I think the site's doing what it naturally is meant to do in a drought period. We just need it to we need the rain to come.
Yep.
As in many other areas of the
Everywhere.
district. Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
And that's my issue with it. We have spent a lot of money on this site. I mean, a lot of money. And now they keep coming back for another $30,000. They want some more money, they want some more money. And it seems like we're just creating more problems than we're solving out there. And I tell you why, is because I own a creek, and during the drought, dog fennel grew up in my creek, but guess what? The creek's full of water now and dog fennel's dead. So do we need to let Mother Nature take its course and let a flood happen and kill the dog fennel and let the natural process of wetland plants go to where we're not trying to continue to manipulate it and spend $15,000 here and $15,000 there and on and on and on? I know we're in a drought, but we're working our way out of it, hopefully with the weather patterns. But I mean, why are we continuing to spend money and time? And I understand that there was some money from a insurance claim and a whole bunch of other stuff there. But I mean, really being fiscally responsible, there is a line there where we can let nature take its course and do what it needs to do. Is that right or not? That's not an option? What? I understand the Army Corps is putting pressure on us, but can we come back because common sense and say, well, let nature take its course or not? That's not an option?
Madam Chair. Mr. Schwab, that is certainly an option. I think that when we evaluated that, letting the rains come, that was a conversation that we had internally. And when evaluating that site, the date that we are working up against a mitigation credit release date. So March 2027 is a date that if we can get this site established and working the way that it needs to, which we're close, right? We're very close. We didn't anticipate a drought to this degree, but we're close. Then those credits can be released. And so FDOT is the one that's on the hook for those credits. We're acting as somewhat of a contractor. This was one of those partnership projects that the district did that we're statutorily allowed to do. And we don't have many of these. I just would like to add, we have two. Hopefully it stays at two at this rate, pending the board directing us differently, of course. But we had that discussion, and the direction from the foresters, from the biologists, was if we can get that dog fennel out, then those wetland species that need to be at a certain percentage within each of those testing inspection plots have a better chance of reestablishing through the winter, through this rainy period, and meeting success criteria for March. So we don't want to have to go back in and plant a bunch of physical plants. We would like to remove the dog fennel, let those wetland species reestablish, and hopefully get us to March 2027. I think if we had a longer runway on that date, we could watch those weather patterns a little bit longer and wait it out, but we're trying to do our best to meet that permit deadline of March 2027.
Well, we've already spent $300,000 on this project. Is that right?
Madam Chair, we have spent about $250 on this contract itself. The district, well, again, FDOT, this is FDOT's project, this is FDOT's funds, we're acting somewhat as a contractor, spent more than that back in 2015.
And to be honest with you, Caitlin, I'm excited and glad that we have oversight on this project because the FDOT doesn't have a board looking at them saying, what are you spending this money for? Mm-hmm. We do. And that's good. That's checks and balances. And the reality is somebody's got to say, okay, enough's enough. And let's be wise stewards of the taxpayer's dollar. Because when it's all said and done with, whether it's an insurance policy or taxes or whatever it is, it's still state taxpayers' money. And we have to be responsible. And in business and where we are, I understand we got a deadline coming up, but we would look at it and say, well, let's let nature take its course. I mean, $30,000 is a lot of money today. It was yesterday. It was back in 2015. And I'm just saying for the record, I'm not saying I'm against it or for it, but somewhere we got to, let's be wise about what we're doing here. And I'm glad that we're overseeing these two projects for the DOT, because obviously they're just throwing money out window thinking it's just growing on trees. And I'm on the record for that.
Madam Chair. I think we, at this point in the permit, to Mr. Schwab's comments, which certainly, I mean, spending taxpayer dollars wisely and conservatively is a personal ethic of mine and something that we strive to at the district as a whole. So I agree with your sentiment, Mr. Schwab. I think relative to this permit, if we can consider it and push towards that goal of March 2027 and trying to get this site established and get those credits released, if we don't, then the next option that we're looking at is either coming up with another adaptive management plan, buying credits to get the site, to get those mitigation credits accomplished in an entirely different way, which is another option, and then talking with FDOT about what other ideas they have on the table. So we got to satisfy the permit, we got to satisfy the mitigation credits somehow, and we're working with DOT. And again, this is one option, and when we're working with them, if we can't get the site established, then they've got to go buy credits elsewhere.
Oh, just for the record, Warren is in the room again. He's more than welcome to answer any questions. There.
Warren,
Just for your help. He
perfect
got your
timing.
back.
Perfect timing.
Caitlin, both of those other options mean spending a lot more money, right?
Madam
Buying the
Chair.
credits- Buying the credit somewhere or creating another project to offset the credit.
Madam Chair. Yes, sir.
I agree with Richard about being aware of what we're spending and quit, trying not to throw good money after bad, so to speak. But in this particular situation, I think the recommendation that you're making makes sense, because for $30,000, we probably get a project that today may cost $1 million. If we can get it approved where it offsets those credits, then that's what we need to do, or what we should do.
Any other comments or questions? I guess I'm going to ask one more thing. The consulting, Florida Consulting, how do they feel, how confident are they that we can get these wetland plants established by the deadline?
Madam Chair, the first step to getting the wetland plants established, based off of their expertise, DOT's council and the Army Corps and our own staff, is to get that dog funnel out. And so if we can get the dog funnel out and let what's already there reestablish, then we can assess what other plantings, if any, may be needed. We're hopeful that the dog funnel is going to provide what's necessary for the existing plantings to flourish. I think Rez is prepared to bring another option to us for additional plantings, but right now, this is, I think, the most prudent and conservative path forward.
Okay.
But I would be prepared for additional plantings, and that would be, to Mr. Schwab's point, when we are working with DOT and having conversations with them about what's the most financially responsible decision to satisfy the needs of this permit.
Okay. All right, so do we have a recommendation to vote on?
Madam Chair, I make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the recommendation. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you, ma'am.
Madam Chair, that concludes our items.
Okay. All right, let's see. Dr. Brown.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Governing Board. Water Resource Division has 5 items. Water Resource Division update that I will give. Items 36 through 38 were approved by way of the consent agenda, and thank you for that. And then item number 39 will be presented by Ms. Susie Hetrick. I just wanted to reinforce what Robbie had shown in the hydro conditions report, which is that we're continuing to monitor conditions. We are seeing some additional rainfall, especially as it is impacting the coastal counties for now. And we'll keep an eye on the groundwater levels and the conditions there as it relates to the water shortage. It is also possible that we're going to see a recovery in our aquifer that is not fully consistent throughout the district, right? It's unusual for us to be completely in a drought or completely out of a drought for the entirety of our district. And so one of the things that we may be monitoring is in some areas like the Santa Fe Basin, we may see those persistent dry conditions even as we see other areas where the aquifer levels are recovering. And so that's a part of what we may see is a difference in how we're approaching that based on the conditions of the aquifer as it relates to recovery after rainfall. So I just wanted to bring that to you, but we are looking at that and also looking at the usage data associated with the different parts of our district as we look at the water shortage. With that, unless there are any questions, I'll hand it over to Susie, who will be talking about the joint funding agreement.
Got one question. In the past, I don't remember what year it was, but didn't the district put in some additional wells that was kind of along the Cody Scarp or whatever to kind of check and see how much change there was possibly coming from water usage in the St. John's? And how has that been in the drought? How has it been significant when we check those wells?
So when we look at the wells in our district and in the St. John's district right now, and actually on the actual physical hydro conditions report itself that I believe you have in front of you, it shows groundwater conditions all the way extending into the St. John's district. And you're seeing those red dots in both the eastern part of our district and the St. John's district for the Florida aquifer. And that's some of what we're tracking, is that those aquifer levels are very low. And because of the nature of the confinement in the St. John's district and the confinement in our part, the eastern part of our district, just because it rains on the surface does not mean it will easily make it all the way into the aquifer in that location. So yeah, for both us on the eastern side of our district and in the St. John's district, those aquifer levels remain very, very low. And that's why even though you're seeing rainfall on the land surface, but even that was more at the coast than it was inland. And that's where we may see something where we have parts of our district where we're still needing to be very cautious with our water as we let the aquifer replenish when we can get this above average rainfall. Other parts of our district, especially those that are unconfined and respond rapidly to rainfall, if we have a couple months of surplus, then we may see ourselves in a condition where you don't need to be as cautious about your water use in those areas.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Brown, is it, I know in the area of the Santa Fe River Basin, for example, is under extreme drought. The river flow conditions are really low. The aquifer levels are really low in that area. If we continue to get rainfall or average or above average rainfall in the district, and the levels all come up, but we still have an issue or a problem in that Santa Fe River Basin, is that a situation where we act differently for that particular area than we do for the entire district? Meaning, let's say a Phase 3 water shortage had to be issued, but we only had a problem in a small percentage of the district. Would we implement that in a particular area, or does it have to be district-wide when we take that action?
Madam Chair? Yeah, so we have the discretion to define the area, and that's where, in this case, our entire district was experiencing those extreme drought conditions, and so we did a district-wide water shortage. As the conditions start to change, we might see some counties that are not in any kind of water shortage. We might see other areas where we are. We can certainly do a geographic area. I would say that the more easily identifiable the boundaries are, the easier it is for people to know whether they're in or out. And so rather than defining a basin, we may say Columbia County, or we may say Alachua County, depending on the nature of the extent of the shortage relative to the areas that are being constrained. But yes, we have the discretion to look at which specific parts of our district are experiencing the shortage and adjust the recommendations based on which area is experiencing the shortage.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Nope? Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, can I know St. John's is still in a phase 3, but is it only, that phase 3 declaration, is it only for the northern portion of their district, do you know? I don't know, Robbie.
It is predominant, I believe it is not just Region 1, which is the joint partnership. I believe there's a couple other counties also.
The next region down, further south, I think.
Right.
That was my thing. To get to the point that you were asking about, on it, Mr. Thompson, is that it is up to the district. And currently, their phase, as I recall, their phase 3 declaration is not district-wide.
Correct.
It's in the more northern portion of their district.
So if we start to see these refined conditions where you have some areas recovering and other areas that are still in that deficit, and you can see it with the rainfall numbers as well, then we may want to take a different action for those two different areas.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
One other question, just while we're on this subject. But that area, the Santa Fe River Basin, for example, is that considered a confined area for us?
The eastern portion of the Santa Fe River Basin, if you I don't have the scarp line, but it actually, so as you go through the sink and up on the river rise down where you start to see all the springs coming out, that area has transitioned into the more unconfined part of our district. So that the Bradford County is confined, and then as you move your way down, then you hit a transition zone, and that sink rise is kind of at the edge of the scarp where you're starting to see more interaction between groundwater and surface water. The river goes under the ground. As it comes back out again, you're moving more into the unconfined part of the aquifer. So you can see rainfall, and if it's coming into Bradford County, then that rain tends to move more on surface streams and runoff and flow. As you get further down and you get into parts of southern Columbia County, more of that water just goes down into the aquifer and doesn't necessarily run off. But you have some creeks, like Alusty Creek there, that would pick up surface. So you're in a transitional zone. The Santa Fe actually transitions from fully confined to unconfined as it works its way downriver.
Yeah, that's why we got you guys here.
That's right.
Comments, but I have a little problem understanding the confined, underconfined, and how that affects the aquifer levels in both. As time goes on, I'll become more educated about that, have a better understanding. The picture, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Brown.
Thank you. All right, thank you, ma'am.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. For agenda item 31, which is on WR page 4, I have for your consideration the fiscal year 2026-2027 interagency joint funding agreement with the United States Geological Survey. I wanted to walk you through a few slides just to give you update you on the background, to refresh your memories. The district has cooperated with USGS since the 1970s to collect water resources data from major surface water stations throughout our area. And under these agreements, USGS operates and maintains the data collection sites, they provide data quality assurance, and they publish the data. In fiscal year 27, the JFA will support water resource monitoring for 34 surface water sites throughout the district shown on this map. The stations on this map are symbolized to distinguish the different types of data collected at each. The work funded by this ongoing agreement provides essential information that supports flood forecast stations and warnings. The location is circled in red here. And in addition, several of the long-term stations circled in orange here also serve as compliance gauges for the district's minimum flows and minimum levels. Data collected through this JFA are provided in real time to the public via the USGS web pages shown here. This is Swanee River at Branford as of last week, as well as the district's river levels webpage and the district's automated river level phone service. Table 1 in your packet provides a detailed budget showing the USGS costs to operate each monitoring station for fiscal year 27 and a breakdown of the proposed cooperative funding the USGS will contribute. There's an approximate 3% overall cost increase for station operation this year, which we did anticipate. However, the USGS Cooperative Management Fund contribution is greater, is increasing this year, resulting in an overall decrease in our contribution as compared to last year. I'll also note that the cost to operate 5 of the coastal river stations, those shown, oh, don't do that, those shown along the coastline here, those 5 stations will be, or we're anticipating will be offset this year by a DEP grant. So that will also save us some of our contribution. Tyler, if you'll return to the memo, please. Madam Chair, staff recommends the governing board authorize the executive director to execute an interagency joint funding agreement and no-cost amendments with the United States Geological Survey for water resource data collection services for a total agreement amount not to exceed $1,020,880, with the district contributing $547,245 for the total agreement amount for fiscal year 2026-2027.
Any discussion? Is there a motion?
I make the motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susie.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. And let me begin by saying thank you again for the opportunity to serve here at the district and to serve with this board. I do appreciate your leadership and your support over the years in this role. And Caitlin, your hair has held up a lot better than mine has over the last 10 years, and I'll leave it at that. But, Swanee has always been kind of home for me, because even prior to coming to working for the district, when I was with the Department of Ag, my office was located, co-located here. And to that extent, I did get to work with the people here at the board and the staff itself. So it has been home for a long time with that. And I see Mr. McCall and Mr. Adams have made it here, so we're ready to begin the audit committee when the board is ready with that. And then we also have a lands committee with it. I do want to remind the board next month's meeting. The timing on those is a little different, being in September, because we will have budget workshops to follow the meeting. We'll have our meeting on the 8th of September. That'll be at 3 p.m. And then our time certain public hearing for our first public budget workshop will be at 5:05. And then the second meeting for final approval on the budget is on the 21st of September, which is a Monday, and it'll be in the afternoon as well. We'll have some workshops at 3 o'clock, and then time certain again at 5:05 for our public hearing with it. And one last comment, Mr. Thompson, to help me understand as far as the recharge goes across our district. And I've kind of used this with my family and others that I've talked to. I always kind of generally think right there around High Springs, which Dr. Brown was referencing, where the river comes back up. And being from this area, and I know you can appreciate this as well as the board members, I'm familiar with the area downstream of High Springs. We have a lot of springs that contribute to the flow from the river. So we're getting a lot of groundwater contribution at that point. But when you get above High Springs and Santa Fe, over in Brooker, over in that area, you have very little in the way of freshwater spring contribution. So that's where your surface water. And if you don't get rainfall in that region, your river flow diminishes. And certainly you can see that represented at the highway or the Interstate 75, where it crosses the Santa Fe. Because a lot of the contribution up above that area is rainfall and surface water. And so that's always been just, for me, it's always been helpful to think about the river divided by. We are a very, you all know, we are a very unique part of Florida. with the river systems that we have here, and the geology and the hydrology that we have, and it makes it challenging in a number of ways. Working with Department of Ag, just looking at the best management practices that are implemented here versus other areas of the state, they're a lot more challenging because we do have confined surface water systems versus unconfined groundwater system contribution areas. It's a bit challenging. With that, Madam Chair, I'll be quiet.
Oh, we
Be happy to
enjoy
answer any
it.
questions.
I'm sure
Madam Chair.
Richard's probably got questions.
Madam Chair, I don't want to belabor this issue because we need to get on to the audit report. And I think Dr. Brown is, I just need to have a sit down with her one day maybe and
She'll be happy
clear
to
my
do that.
issues, but
She is a great teacher.
my question is, I understand confined and unconfined, but the aquifer recharge in those areas was what I was trying to understand. Is if it's confined, the water's not gonna go through the ground and go to the aquifer.
No.
How do they get aquifer recharge? Does it recharge from other areas and go to there? But I've always heard where the Cody Escarp is, it doesn't go through there very quickly. So are those areas limited in how they get recharge? And does the aquifer level have to be at 75, 80, or 90% before they get a recharge that's adequate to bring their levels back up to where it needs to be?
I'll certainly defer to Dr. Brown on this, but in my understanding with it, they do get recharge, but it's a lot slower. And they don't get the percentage out of a given, and Amy, you speak to this, but out of a given rain event, because they are, the majority of the soils there are confined and they get surface water discharge, you've got to hold that water there for a lengthy period of time in order for it to percolate through those soil types. Otherwise, a lot of it just runs off and you'll get some recharge. And whereas over here, you pour a 5-gallon bucket of water out here on the ground, you know where it goes to that extent. But Amy, I don't know if
Madam Chair, yes. So, yes, it's not, when it's confined, it doesn't mean zero water makes it through. It means it's harder for, more water runs off than goes down. So that's part of it. And then part of it is that we know that there are certain parts of our aquifer that are places where water gets in more readily. So, for example, Lakes Brooklyn and Geneva, there's a leakiness to that lake and water there. So there is actually a high in the aquifer that's beneath that lake system because more water goes down in that area than other places, and you can see that kind of propagate out from that high. There's another one up in Valdosta, and again, same thing. There are some known features where you're taking water and it's more readily recharged there than another high, and it kind of goes out from that area. But water is still leaking through, but more of it, to Hugh's point, more of it is running off than is leaking through in some places in our district. In other places, it's actually relatively hard to get water to run off because most of it is going down. And so you get more benefit there, and that's where you see a very rapid, when we get these high rainfall events, you can see a very rapid change in your Florida aquifer levels underneath that respond maybe within a day to the rain event. In other places, you might see a gradual rise, some of it coming laterally and some of it percolating in.
that's why it's critical in that confined area that we have to either find, for a recharge activity, we either have to find a connection, geological, sinkhole, whatever, connection to the aquifer, or put in an artificial recharge well that moves through and passes that confining layer to get the water below it, because it doesn't naturally move through that in a rapid fashion. It's, again, one of the unique and challenging things that we have.
As a comment, though, I did see where the Black Creek project started pumping water back into
Yes, sir.
Santa Fe Lake.
Yeah, the great news on that project over there, they have finally gotten sufficient rainfall, and the board's heard about that project for some time, and they just have not had sufficient rainfall over there to be able to pull water off of Black Creek. But they have. The recent rain events have allowed for enough water to begin recharging, going through, pulled off the Black Creek, conveyed down for treatment, and then once it's treated, it's making its way to the Keystone Lakes over there for recharge. That's a great thing. It just shows how reliant we are upon rainfall to happen here.
Any other questions for Hugh? All right, let's see here. Hugh, do you have any questions for us?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Yes, sir. All right, so I think that winds up our board meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn our board meeting?
Make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. We are adjourned. All right, I think we're going to go right into our audit meeting. And it's still, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. We want to,
Oh, sorry. Get my paperwork done here. All right. We are going to now, it's August 11th, 2026, and we are going to bring our committee meeting to order for our audit meeting. And if you would give us a roll call, Ms. Robin, that'd be great.
Ms. Johns,
Here?
Mr. Keith, Mr. Schwab,
Here.
Mr. Lloyd,
Here.
Mr. Sessions.
Here.
We have a quorum, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't have any cards for public comment, but at this time we'll open for public comment. Anyone would like to speak? If not, we'll close public comment and move on to our agenda. And we're going to have our annual report of District Inspector General activities for the fiscal year 2025 and 2026.
good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I do have 2 items for you today for the committee to accept and review. The first one is the annual report of the District Inspector General activities for the current fiscal year, and that will be presented by our Inspector General, Sam McCall. And then the second item is the Inspector General 3-year audit plan for the fiscal year 27 to 29, as well as the fiscal year 27 internal annual work plan. So at this time, I'm going to bring Mr. McCall up and let him do the annual presentation. And then following his presentation, I'll come back and make the recommendation, and then we'll follow that up with Mr. Jeffrey Adams. So, yes, sir.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the governing board. As Mr. Thomas started off, I thought I should start off this morning and thank you for allowing Law Red Cronin Monroe to provide your internal audit services for the district. I'm always pleased that the firm has associated their name with the district and my name with the district, so we are pleased to provide this service. My job today is to provide to you the annual report under section 20.055 of the Florida statutes. We're required to follow all the requirements of inspectors generals and state agencies. One of that is that we prepare an annual report that's due no later to you than September the 30th. So we're a little ahead there, but that's a good thing. The firm during this year, we had 3 major activities. One was to perform a risk assessment and prepare an annual and 3-year proposed plan that'll be presented to you in a few minutes by Jeffrey Adams. We performed 2 internal audits during the year. We're working on a cybersecurity audit now that will issue during the first part of next year. And I believe we provide some value-added services which hopefully adds to the district's operations. In terms of the follow-up reports, we followed up on an Auditor General report relating to extra compensation and allocation practice. Work with the district on that and provide some assurances that that issue has been addressed and we can move forward on that. We did a timber sales report. I presented that last time to you, so I won't go into details of that, but it was looking at more than $1.5 million in terms of timber revenue. And what we determined on that was the entire process was supported and well documented. So we were real pleased with that. I think it was a very interesting audit and a very needed audit. hopefully we'll not have many hurricanes in the future to require harvesting that timber on the ground, but it does happen. In terms of value-added services, some things that have occurred this year that we get calls on. I received about 3 inquiries last year. People come directly to me as citizens. I know the district gets way, way more calls than I get, but when I get a call, I follow up on it. I contact Mr. Alexander, Mr. Thomas, talk to district staff, and make sure that there's a process there to address citizens' complaints, as there always is. But what I do there is I don't try to interject myself into the process. You have a job to do and you should do it, and I should not put myself in the middle of that. So I really ask the district to follow up on it, to see what's going on, to resolve it one way or the other, and to get back with me so that I know the issue's been resolved. What that helps me with is if we were to receive complaints in an area 3 or 4 times a year, then that should raise the red flag. So I would say, what's going on? Do we need to get with the board? Do we need to possibly do an audit in this area? So that's good for us to do there. So far, all of those have been handled as they should have been handled. We were requested by district management to assist them on an auditor general report. I mentioned that a minute ago. We did that. I continue to maintain contact with the governor's chief inspector general, the inspector general for the Department of Environmental Protection, work closely to these districts. I've known those 2 ladies for a long time and feel very comfortable talking with them. I meet with them in conferences I go to, and I think that assists us in working with the district. We also maintain contact with the St. Johns River Water Management District, and I maintain contact with the Southwest Florida Water Management District and see what they're doing. So I feel comfortable calling them, talking to them. We share issues of common, and we, at times, if we are doing the same audit or have done an audit, we can share with them our audit program, so it assists them. So I think that coordination there is very helpful for us in terms of working with the district. In March of this year, in addition to my other responsibilities, I did a quality assurance review of the Southwest Florida Water Management District Inspector's General work. So I looked at his working papers, I looked at his audit programs, those types of opportunities, and I've done those in the past when I was with the state and with the city, but it gives us a chance to see how another auditor does their work. We learn more from them and bring back more from them to our job here in the district than we could ever go out and buy. So I always look forward to doing those quality assurance reviews, making sure their standards are up to the par as they should be. And the last thing there, and the next to last thing is every year the State Inspectors General have a conference at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. They provide training to new auditors and to audit managers and audit directors. I think for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been asked to go out and speak to them about internal audit standards and government audit standards, so I did that again this year. Gives me another opportunity to meet with the Inspectors General and state agencies and with the ones with DEP and the Governor's Inspectors General. So I did that in March of this year. I provided fraud training to the Atlanta chapter of the Association of Government Accountants. I mentioned that because in terms of that fraud training, if the district ever wants me to provide some fraud training for the governing board or staff, I'm more than happy to present that to you and talk about how we can cut down on, where we can address, we can identify, we can look for issues relating to abuse, which can turn into fraud. So that's available for you at any time you'd like for me to do that. Tomorrow, I'm going to lead a workshop at Northwest Florida Water Management District and talk about how they can go about hiring their independent external auditor to do their financial statement audit. I mention that because about 3 or 4 years ago, when you hired your external auditor, I think it was maybe less time than that, I worked with Pam Shaw, and we worked through that process, and Pam was kind enough this year to provide to me materials that she used when you hired your external auditor, so I can provide that knowledge and benefit to the Northwest Florida Water Management District Board tomorrow in a workshop, and they can go out with an RFP for new auditors. So I think that's basically it. His last thing, not part of my audit annual plan, but I'm doing an audit now, as I mentioned to Tim Alexander, on the City of Thomasville and Thomas County landfill. So it's all about water, you know. I want it to be clean when it comes out of the ground, and the landfill wants to be clean when it leaves the landfill, so, and is treated. So all of that adds to our knowledge base. I say it adds one more thing to our toolbox. So we try to continually do that and hopefully identify things that'll help the district. So with that, I'm available for any questions you might have.
I just want you to know, I appreciate you spreading the good word about our level of professionalism here at the 5th largest water management district in the state of Florida. And I want the the West Florida, was it Southwest? Is that where you're going?
Went to Southwest Florida Water Management.
No, where are you
District.
going tomorrow?
Going to Northwest
All right,
tomorrow.
you tell them the level of professionalism and us training them how to do what they do.
Well,
Let them know.
They have
5th
already,
largest is leading the way.
they have already thanked me quite a bit for providing that material to
We're
them.
just doing our
and
part,
slides.
just to be leaders in this in these organizations in the state of Florida. We're just trying to be the best. Level of excellence.
I tell people I can either lead, follow, you either need to lead, follow, or get out of the way.
100%.
And you're
There you go,
leading at
Pam.
this
Thank you
point.
very much, Pam. Appreciate that.
Thank you for your, thank you for your.
Thank you, sir.
So the recommendation is to accept the annual report of the District Inspector General activities for fiscal year 2025-26 from La Red, Crona, and Monroe.
I make that motion, we accept it.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So
ma'am.
the next item and final item is the Inspector General 3-year audit plan for fiscal year 27 to 29, and the annual internal audit work plan that Jeffrey Adams, their IT audit manager, is going to come and present that as well. Then I'll come back up and read the recommendation. He's going to give you about, 4 or 5 options for our 3rd year, so for y'all to consider. And once you decide which one of the options you choose, then we will update that plan. So that's talking to you about.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. It's my pleasure to present to you the 3-year plan. Basically, I'm telling you for the next 2 years what I'm going to be doing, and maybe some of my staff if I have the opportunity to have some again. Unfortunately, accounting, auditing, it's not the, I don't know if the word's sexy, it's not the sexiest profession, so we don't attract the most number of people, but we do attract some very highly skilled people. And working with staff at the district, as you said, very professional, always a pleasure to work with them. So for the first year, 2027 upcoming, we're going to be working on completing our finalizing our cybersecurity audit. This is in line with the state cybersecurity code and NIST cybersecurity framework. We're looking at the detect, respond, and recover components of the framework. We're going to complete that. We started it this year. We ran out of time. And so we will be completing that next year. Competitive solicitation procurement process and performance measures are up for next year. So that's 2027. In terms of 2028, we're looking at another follow-up on cybersecurity findings, if we have any. Tyler and his team do such a great job. And we have a big portion of our plan updating this risk assessment, but risk assessment, from our perspective, never stops. And there's always new things to bring into scope for the risk assessment. For example, one thing we'll be looking at next year is in the cybersecurity audit plan, mobile devices, and any risks from countries of foreign concerns. I'm sure you've all heard the stories of water infrastructure being attacked in various states, and it's a personal point of pride to know that Florida has not made the list of states, and I'm hoping this doesn't open the gates. Okay, so other thing in 2028, contract management, we're going to be looking at and evaluating the district's procedure for contract management, vendor performance monitoring, documentation, record keeping, in contract payment. Then for 2029, this is where I'm going to need some feedback from the board, Madam Chair. I have 4 options on there. We have a grant management audit, a tangible personal property audit, fleet services audit, and accounts payable. My recommendation to the board, and Madam Chair, would be to go to options 2 and 3, fleet services and tangible personal property. My logic for claiming that is because a lot of the things we would look at in a grant management audit are going to be scooped up in the performance measures audit that's happening next year. And then in terms of accounts payable, almost every single one of our audits looks at vendor payments in some way, shape, or form. So we're picking up a lot of that across the various audits that we perform for the district. And so my recommendation is going to be those 2, but again, it's your purview to make that decision. And so now I will stop talking and allow you to deliberate if necessary. If you have any questions for me, please ask.
What was the 4th item that you had?
The 4th item was an accounts payable audit. And this is on page 12 of our agenda.
Any questions, comments regarding the 2029 list?
Madam Chair,
Uh-huh.
just so I understand, your recommendation is only option 2 and 3, not 1 and 4?
Yeah, I would lean towards 2 and 3.
Just to follow up, you said some of the other accounts payable data gets picked up in other audits or in other areas.
I would say almost every.
Is the same for grant management?
Grant management, not so much, because a lot of times we're looking at operations as opposed to grant management. So grant management, we get into looking at the CFDA or CFSA, depending on whether it's federal or state, and then we get into reading through the contract and pulling out the compliance provisions of those contracts, and then seeing, what programming is in place at the district to make sure that you're meeting compliance requirements.
I guess amongst those, I'm happy to go with the recommendation, unless there's other comments.
I have one, I just have one. I guess it's just because it's on the front of my mind right now, but do we have any options of auditing existing contracts and being able to, and what I mean by from outside organizations, we have an existing contract right now with the Florida DOT that we're helping meet a mitigation obligation and mitigation bank. And they keep coming back with, we need another $30,000 to complete this project on time and that kind of stuff. Is there any way to be able to audit those projects and make sure that those recommendations from outside organizations to us are legit? Or are they just making up stuff to where they can get another $30,000 in the project?
So I guess I would say when the contract first comes up, the board typically hears the
Yeah,
contract.
typically, we see the contract and we say, okay, the contract is set up to where it's not to exceed, but then there's other qualifiers in there that's really not, it's there, but it's not really discussed. Whereas if something comes up and we can't meet this certain thing at a certain date and be able to make qualifications, we may have to be obligated to spend more money. And that kind of stuff. And I'm wondering, is it just one of those deals where that contractor or those people, maybe it's the DOT or whoever, or I'm not saying that there's nefarious things going on, that they're lining their pockets with the money, but it just seems like to me we're making a whole, on the backs of the taxpayers, we're making a whole nother opportunity for our contractors to get money from the taxpayer, to me. And that's from a guy that doesn't, I don't have my hands on the project, I don't know. I mean, I wanna know, is this legit? I'm being asked to authorize to spend the money, and I wanna make sure that I'm getting good feedback, not from our staff, but from these other outside influences that are wanting us to spend this money for them.
Madam Chair. So anything that comes up like that, you're more than welcome to have a conversation with your Inspector General, and he can assign me duties as needed. That's part of the plan and the contract that we have with the district.
But is there an option item for some of that too, or does that normally happen, or am I just thinking way outside the box, or maybe I'm just too big of a conspiracy theorist? I don't know.
So I would say,
Get my tinfoil hat on my truck if I need to.
and I would say, again, looking at the plan, there is discretionary. This is on page 14. So this is our typical format of our annual plan, discretionary. And that would be essentially a conversation with the audit committee and the inspector general. And we would prioritize that in line with the work that we have before us and try to see where it fits in. And maybe have some negotiations about an increase in fee one year if we needed to. So all those things are certainly par for the course with what we offer as services as your inspector general / internal auditors.
Would information like that or inspection, would that kind of fall under grant management? I know it's not a grant, but we're working with FDOT on this particular project. But I wasn't sure exactly under the grant management. We do a lot of grants, so I don't know whether that's something that might
Oh, sorry.
be, it might encompass some of the existing grants.
So it's a grant management. We look at pretty much everything that happens with the revenue contracts that come through grant funding. So I think that's perfectly in line with, that type of thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, please.
I certainly heard Mr. Schwab's comments earlier in the meeting today. If monies are coming from DOT, and Jeffrey mentioned CFDA, that's Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance. If DOT receives monies from the federal government, then they should follow that Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance to make sure the monies they receive from the federal government are spent properly. He also mentioned CSA, Catalog of State Financial Assistance. I worked on that one to help to get that for the state, and that's if it's a state grant, then those should be looked at. The CFDA and state financial assistance, those are things that are within the scope of your external auditor's audit. He's supposed to look at all major grants and some of the minor grants too, but your external auditor should be looking at that for compliance. Now, we know there can be compliance, but there could still be a waste of money. I would write a report that say we're wasting the taxpayers' money, but I think we could. Sometimes when you don't have an answer, the best thing we can do as an auditor, and I've done that, is we don't have the answer, but we can write a report that's descriptive to explain the issue, explain the situation, and possibly provide some policy options. Those get into a lot of details, and I've worked on performance audits that could cost, between $50,000 and $600,000, and y'all don't pay that money to us, nor do I expect you to or want you to, but it can get very involved, is what I'm saying, because you have to get out in the field and look at these things, you have to talk to people, sometimes you have to do surveys, and our contract is relatively small for the district, but hopefully through your external auditor looking at federal grants and state grants, when we look at something, if it comes up to our attention, we can look at that. If we see something that's wrong, it's our job. If we think there's abuse, and I mentioned abuse earlier, it doesn't have to violate a law, rule, or regulation, contract, or agreement, and it doesn't have to be fraud, but if there's abuse, that can rise to a level at some point as fraud, but we're required by our standards not to look at abuse. If we're doing an audit and we're not supposed to find abuse, we're supposed to find fraud, but abuse is at a much lower level is what I'm saying. And this may be abuse as opposed to a fraud issue, but I think that the bottom line here is your external auditors and any additional work that may not give you the exact answer you're looking for, if we can raise the level of your knowledge, then helps you to address the issue. So a descriptive type report might be helpful to you. And I hope that added to your questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. All right, so the recommendation is 2 and 3?
Yes, 2 and 3, which was tangible personal property and fleet services.
All right, so we have that option.
Yeah, I guess the question is of the 2 and 3, we've done both of those before, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, which one of the two have we done
The best.
the,
Most recent.
the most recently?
I say both were within the last 7 years.
Okay. Well, it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, toss a coin.
So we need to pick one of those two?
Pick 2 of the 4.
2 of the 4. So we can go with option 2 and 3, I guess.
2 and 3, yes, sir.
I'll make that motion if.
I second that, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and a second for items 2 and 3. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Board.
Thank you, sir.
So, we will get an update of the 3-year plan and move forward with that and get that sent to Robin to update the plan. And also to follow up with your question, Madam Chair, if I might, as part of the procurement audit that they're going to be doing, as well as the contract management audit that they've already got planned, what we might even have them do is take a look at any contracts that have amendments to assess if the amendments, followed through and were necessary. And we can kind of add that in if we can ask them to look at it that way too. That would be helpful. So the recommendation is the acceptance of the Inspector General's 3-year audit plan, adding options 2 and 3 for 2029, and and then the fiscal year 2027 internal work plan for Law Reg Crona and Monroe.
Make that recommendation.
Second.
We have a recommendation and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
So one thing I do want to comment on is we really do appreciate Law Reg Crona and Monroe, and especially Sam McCall, Mr. McCall, with his expertise. And He's come on, he's done a really good job taking over. We miss John Wood, but he's taken on and done a really great job. And thank you again, Sam. That's all I have.
All right, well, we appreciate you, Ms. Pam. You have, over the years, have done such a good job, and you have absolute confidence from the board, and we appreciate your work that you do.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it starts at the top. So, and it's a great staff. They
ma'am.
work with us, so thank you.
All righty. I guess that winds up our audit committee meeting. And so we would ask for a motion to adjourn our audit committee.
Make that motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. This time, I'm going to pass the gavel over for our lands committee.
Thank you. We don't need a break. Y'all ready to roll? All right. I'm going to call the Lands Committee meeting to order. Robin, would you please take the roll? Here.
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 Thank you very much. I don't have any public comment cards in front of me, so would anybody like to make oh, I do. Thank you. Susan Carr, Mrs. Carr. Would you like to speak? Yes, ma'am, you're more than welcome to go, or if there's something specific that you want to talk to, is there an item?
I do.
Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and let Caitlin introduce it, and I'll bring you up. All right, Caitlin, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Lands Committee, and Ms. Johns, still here with us, thank you. I have one item for your consideration today, and that is on Lands Committee, page 2. And this is the approval of the ranking for conservation land acquisition projects, authorizing detailed assessment for fiscal year 2026-2027. And just to be clear, that title. This is not authorizing the purchase of anything today. This is simply authorizing the ranking that you see here based off of a number of criteria that are listed in your memorandum and the directive that you've set forth to the staff for detailed assessment. So this is just to begin talking to these landowners and begin negotiations. This is not buying anything today. So that's important to remember. Pursuant to Section 373-139 of Florida statutes, the district may purchase property in fee or less than fee for the purposes of flood protection, natural systems restoration, water supply sustainability, and water quality protection. The district lands are acquired through a voluntary willing seller program. A total of 15 new land acquisition project applications were received this funding cycle. Each project was evaluated against the criteria established by Governing Board Directive 25-0009, which is listed below. And these are the high-level criteria. It's the directive goes into more detail, but this is the screening criteria that was used for the project evaluation. It was a very objective process. The Land Acquisition and Surplus team used the data gathered from the above criteria to recommend projects for funding, projects for further development, or projects that we were unable to fund this year. Projects recommended for funding are those that will be sought this fiscal year in the order presented. Projects recommended for further development are those that the district will pursue should additional funding become available or if other projects fall through. Finally, projects which we are unable to fund are those which exceed available funds, do not meet water resource criteria, or do not align with the district's core mission areas. And for those projects pursuant to the directive, the executive director may decline. For FY27, we have 4 projects that we are recommending for detailed assessment as shown listed in your memorandum and on the table that is on the screen. We do not have any projects recommended for further development this year, so it's just these 4 projects that we have. The first project is the Drew property, and Tyler is going to show maps while I walk through the narrative of each of these. This is the fee purchase of 642 acres in Suwannee County. The property is located within the Suwannee BMAP area, the Troy Peacock Lafayette Blue Priority Focus Area, the Eastern Water Supply Planning Area, and is nearby to existing district lands, which you can see indicated here on the screen. The Drew property is outlined in white, and district ownership to the west is in green. We also have a CE there to the south. The northern parcel of the property is currently being used for agricultural operation and includes 2 wells. If acquired by the district, the agricultural operation would be discontinued, producing an estimated savings of up to 1.588 million gallons of water per day, which is the current water use permit, and a nutrient savings of 158,000 pounds of nutrient per year on both parcels. And that's the calculation for both parcels. The current farmed parcel is the 58,000, and if that second parcel was farmed, it would be that extra 100,000. Reduced water use on this property would support recovery of the lower Santa Fe Tuckney minimum flows and minimum water levels. If acquired, the property would be restored to its natural community and reforested. The property would increase public recreation opportunities, including hunting. The property would be managed along Peacock Slough Track, which is located nearby that I just mentioned, and management would be passive, nature-based, and no infrastructure placed on the property. An important note about this property is that the district, should the Lands Committee approve this, would seek Springs funding for the acquisition with a match of 17% or up to $500,000, whichever is less. And so this project would be primarily funded through Springs funding from DEP if the Lands Committee would authorize the negotiations. The next property, Mr. Chair, I can go through the 4 and then have the committee ask specific questions if that suits. Okay. The next property for your consideration is the Newman Hampton Investments property located in Bradford County. This is 111 acres that you can see outlined in white. It is clearly adjacent on 3 sides to existing district lands. This is a conservation easement purchase. It is located within the Basin Management, the Santa Fe Basin Management Action Plan area, Eastern Water Supply Planning area, and as mentioned, adjacent to the Santa Fe Springs tract. The current land use is for timber and recreational hunting. Those activities are going to be maintained. There's no infrastructure on the property, and the easement would be maintained as part of the district's conservation easement monitoring program every 3 years. The next property for your consideration is the Adams Osceola River Ranch property in Madison County for 311 acres. I will note that the original offer that came into the district was over 3,000 acres and extended farther to the east. However, being consistent with the evaluation criteria, we talked to the applicant and requested to narrow the offer to the portion that was only within the Wauwatosa BMAP, which is the area you see here. So the 311 acres is a less than fee purchase. The property is located within the Wauwatosa BMAP and the Wauwatosa Spring Shed. Staff are requesting as part of this to work with the landowner to get permanent access to its Cuba Bay tract. The landowner owns property right here as well, and we have a permissive use agreement to cross the property into Cuba Bay. As part of this acquisition, we would be working with that landowner should the Lands Committee authorize it to get access to Cuba Bay as well. The current land use is cattle grazing, silviculture, recreation, hunting, and natural resource management. The landowner is seeking to continue those activities, which the district supports, and the landowner is willing to give up intensification of water use and nutrient application, which is a right that the district usually seeks. So those are easement terms that the district likes to pursue. The fourth property for your consideration today is the Dixon property, or Tanner Springs in Hamilton County for approximately 50 acres. If this property looks familiar to you, it's because it should. This property came on your list for consideration last fiscal year. We worked with the landowner at the time and actually made an offer for a conservation easement last year. The landowner at the time was wanting a fee simple purchase, and because of the location of this property and access, it was not something that we were interested in seeking based off of the board's feedback. The landowner has come back this year seeking a conservation easement, which we are willing to entertain should the board, should the Lands Committee authorize this. This property is located along the Withlacoochee River, which you can see here indicated on the map, and also contains a portion of a second magnitude spring known as Tanner Spring. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will take questions regarding the ranking of these 4 projects.
Questions from the committee?
There's obviously many other projects that are submitted. I think you had a list of those to start with, that the staff goes through and analyzes and determines which one are suitable or not, and then make your recommendations. I'm curious, and this may need to be a conversation for another time, I don't want to put you on the spot, but Mr. Messer's presentation earlier today, I know Mr. Messer, don't know him intimately, but I know how he is, but he seemed to be, if his assertions for his piece of property were correct, pretty valuable resource that doesn't need to be developed. So are there similar projects in the queue that may be similar to his, or is his even in the queue to be looked at? And can you tell me how you determine the eligibility of what we want to try to acquire an easement on, opposed to the many others that are out there?
Mr. Chair? Yes, sir. I can walk you through that, and certainly if you want a more in-depth discussion, I'll be happy to have that. So Tyler, if you don't mind, if we can go back to the memorandum, I think that's a pretty good starting point. So we received 15 applications, like you mentioned, And the majority of those applications, the 11 that we were not able to fund this year, and I think that that's an important distinction with what we're referencing those, were partnership projects with other agencies. And so FDACS and FDEP and at the federal level, NRCS, they have funding pots that are significantly by orders of magnitude larger than ours, and to the tune of hundreds of millions, whereas our current available balance is floating around 2.5 million. And that is it. If we expended all of those funds, we would have no more funds for land acquisition other than some very specific project funds associated with the MFL recovery. So we have a very small pot, and we're not seeking to expend all of those this year. If you approve us to move forward, and again, I'm using loose numbers here, but we would be at about 1.25 million because we want to keep reserves for future years before we exhaust all those funds. So that's some context, but we take every project and we screen it through this criteria you see here, numbers 1 through 6. And the projects that screen the highest rise to the top, and we start looking at, okay, what is feasible from a funding perspective? And I'll say relative to the partnership projects this year, none of those are on your list. The Springs project, it's not a partnership project where we hold co-title. It would be DEP giving us money to acquire this, and then we would hold the title ourselves. It's not a co-title project. The reason we are not pursuing partnership projects this year, one is because we are still working with FDACS on the terms of their easement. They have what's called a form easement or a template easement that allows for some activities that in certain parts of our district may not be consistent with what the district would want in sensitive natural resource areas because their goals are different, right? They're seeking to preserve activities that the district supports and finds valuable, but in some areas may not be what we're necessarily working toward as a water management district. And so relative to to the project that came before you this morning, it was one of those partnership projects, and we evaluated it based on this criteria. And it would be something that I think if we had additional funds, we would, and the board and committee directed us to pursue partnerships that we could look at. But it wasn't one of the ones that made it to the top 5 or even to something that we could fund. So that project alone was, I think, over 8 million. They were looking at a 50% funding match, which would put it about 4 million. And we had 15 projects with 2.5 million that we weren't even wanting to exhaust. And so, and again, we use this criteria to kind of see, okay, what rose to the top, and then from there, what could we bring before the Lands Committee that was, I think, wise based on the fact that we are not quite complete with FDACS on establishing the terms of that easement, and really didn't want to give anybody false hope or bring things to the Lands Committee that we may not even be able to pursue if we can't, depending on how those negotiations go with FDACS. So they're wanting to work with us, we're wanting to work with them. We just didn't want to commit to any future partnership projects until we were sure about the ones we have now, because we have 2 potential that y'all approved last year, and we're still working through those.
So those partnership projects, just like the Hodges project that it's in Levy County, is that the same? Are we on the same page as far as, I know this funding's coming out of district funds, but on a partnership project where it's being funded from other sources with Tall Timbers or with another partner, with the forestry or whoever, are we talking about the same type projects for easement, or am I totally off base here?
Mr. Chair. So just to clarify a few details, so Hodges, the property you referenced, the district will hold title. We are paying for that one like a normal easement, similar to what you're seeing here. So that is not a partnership project. That's just one that we're pursuing, and we've agreed to terms, and we're hoping to close in the next 30 days, hopefully. The partnership projects that y'all approved last year, there were 2 partnership projects. One was with NRCS, and that was with the Green Ogden Loop that I provided an update on last board meeting, where we had to do some additional survey work. And I'm happy to say, actually, y'all approved a number, I can't remember off the top of my head, I think it was $20,000. The price came in at $500. So it actually, we got that remedied for a lot less expensive than the initial expected cost. So that was good. But that Green Ogden Loop property is with NRCS. And so they're working with the Land Trust, Alachua Conservation Trust, who is a partner to pull down those NRCF funds, and we're partnering with them 50% to purchase that easement. And when that easement when we were working with ACT, we all had to agree on the easement terms. So for us to put up our money, we have to agree to the easement terms. And we have a standard format template that we use as well. And so things that the board's approved in the past, terms that y'all have said are good and right based off of this criteria. And so as long as those easements fall in line with the guidance from this directive, then we look at those, we evaluate them, the attorneys look at them, and then we move forward. On the FDAC side, again, because the goal of that program is to preserve agricultural operations in perpetuity, there's some aspects to their terms that are different than what our form easement allows for. And so we are trying to work with FDACs to see where they're willing to give and where we can meet in the middle to pursue those projects together. So we have the Long Pond project in Levy. I think that's probably the one that you're thinking of right now. That is a partnership project with them. And then we have Bascom Southern, which is a very large project out in Dixie that we are trying to work with them on. And so the goal is to move those projects forward and then bring more partnership projects, because I think it's a good use of public dollars if we can meet on terms to do partnerships. But we're working with them right now. We're in the working on it phase.
You're working on those projects subject to funding, though, right? So we don't have the money available to fund those projects, but we would apply for funding through one of those funding sources to fund it, should it be approved?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. So the 2 that I referenced, y'all approved last year. So they're FY26 projects, and I have those funds accounted for. They're encumbered. And remember, it's a very small portion. For that 52,000 acre property, I think it's 0.05% up to, I think, $250,000. And then for Long Pond, I can't remember what the percentage was. It was closer to $300,000. So yes, if we move forward, we've committed that funding. It's encumbered. We have the budget for it. The short answer is yes, we can afford those because we committed to it last year if we can agree to terms.
But our percentage of the partnership is a very small number, but it's being funded by other governmental entities, right?
Mr. Chair, yes. In that case, yes. But like I mentioned, we brought those to you to pursue, and now we're at the portion where we're looking at their easement and we're looking at what we can agree to based on our typical easement terms, and can we agree?
Okay. I'm good.
Caitlin, is that your presentation? You good with that? All right, I'm going to invite Mrs. Carr up to speak on behalf of the Drew property. Yes.
Yes, my name is Susan Carr. I work for the Putnam Land Conservancy. I formerly worked for ACT, Alachua Conservation Trust. So I've been working with Gina Drew, who's the representative of the family estate and the landowner, for 3 or 4 years now on this project. And so I just really want to speak. Thank you, Caitlin. I mean, y'all pretty much covered all the conservation values. So I just kind of wanted to echo some of that. But I do have one map that I brought here that goes to springs. I just mapped out the springs.
I can look here and you would.
Want to bring to your attention that the Drew property, which is the 640-ish big chunk there, is adjacent to 3 second magnitude springs, Cow Springs, and then the two springs in the Running Springs complex on the west side, as you can see here. And Cow Springs is very well known with, it's actually owned by the National Speleological Society cave diving section. So it's a big cave diving, location. And there's an extensive cave system that partially goes under the Drew property. So it's really important for that. Apparently it has a direct connection with the Floridan aquifer. So the National Speleological Society, I spoke with them yesterday, so they're highly supportive of this as well, and the cave divers. So, and then there are a couple third magnitude springs. I've seen one of them that's kind of just coming right out of the bluff next to the river there, that is on the property. And the property itself, of course, like Caitlin says, about a third of it is in irrigated row crop agriculture, and the remaining 2/3 is largely natural area, including about 150 acres of really high-quality longleaf pine sandhill. And I guess a few years ago, we did a quick and dirty, like, gopher tortoise burrow survey, about half a day's effort, and we counted 450 burrows, which is a pretty dense population. So a lot of gophers out there, and probably some other rare critters as well. So, and one other kind of interesting feature is the Drew Bridge, which I think is the largest railroad swing bridge still in existence. Was the Drew family is their descendants from Governor Drew, who was a post-Civil War Florida governor, and big timber operator too. So they constructed this bridge, I think, in the late 1800s. It is no longer operational, of course, but it's still there. So, interesting landmark. So thank you for your time and consideration. And if you have any questions about the property, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a clarification on the Adams Osceola River Ranch. Thank you very much. I know we don't have that much money, so how are we looking at that one? Is that one being funded by Tallahassee, or that's over 12 million?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
that was for the entirety of the 3,000 acres. And so we would only be looking for easement on this 300.
Okay. And that would be at the 3,466 per acre still?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
subject to appraisals. Yes, ma'am.
Caitlin, I know that we're approving your list here today, but we're not approving the actual purchase of these properties or the easements. Is that correct?
Correct, Mr. Chair. You are only approving us to pursue what we call detailed assessment, which is to reach out to these landowners, begin negotiations, and conduct appraisals in the order that you see listed.
That being said, the Drew property, I know we want to buy it fee simple. That means we're going to be taking $642 acres off the tax rolls. So that irrigated agricultural land up there on the top, and I know that it's got a lot of natural areas, and I wouldn't expect anything other than just managing it for the natural communities. But I would personally like to see some kind of proposal from the district on how we're going to manage that farmland up there. What we're going to plant it with. Are we going to plant it thick enough to where we can maybe generate income off of it to offset the loss to the taxpayer of their property tax revenue to that county? I know that restoring natural communities is our goal. And I know that takes a long time, but we can get there and use economic drivers to be able to drive that. There's opportunity there. So please have your team be looking at that. You just know my opinion on fee simple land on that. So do I have a motion to approve or any other comments?
Mr. Chair, I make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right, I got a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the matter? I'll take, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign. Thank you very much, Ms. Caitlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes our item, and we do not have any other lands committees planned in the short term. However, we hope to continue to evaluate our surplus program and be bringing some sales of small parcels to the board to move those. So, on the other end.
Thank you very much, Caitlin, for your hard work. I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And I got it. All in favor, you can just get up and leave. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Carr. Appreciate you. Thank you, ma'am.